Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to an all-new season of the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right, we are back once again to see our drivers do dueling in GT3 racing machinery, the road cars turn race cars, and over the course of 10 rounds we'll be identifying who are the masters of the road racing craft and who exactly will be emerging as our champions. We are back once again then for a brand new instalment of the premier GT3 Championship here at SimRacing International, and what better way to get ourselves underway after a fantastic pre-season event at the Mobility Resort Motor Gear a week ago by opening up on a classic. It is Watkins Glen International. Known as the mecca of road racing in the United States of America, this New York State circuit is one the world would not be without, and its core is a length of circuit of 3.45 miles and 11 corners within that range. And this circuit, with its long straight and its sweeping bends, is one all about mastering the need for speed and particularly corner apex speed. Whilst many would say that this is perhaps a power circuit, you'd be forgiven for thinking that for the simple reason, if you can carry speed from apex to apex, you'll be able to outrun those who've all gone in for straight line speed. Therefore, the aim of the game around here is not to drop a single mile an hour as you hit a corner apex and be returned to the throttle as quickly as you possibly can, as every microsecond missed out on the throttle could cost you tenths by the time you get to the next braking zone. But who exactly is going to be the bravest on the brakes? Who exactly is going to be the trustiest on the throttle? Well, that's what we're here to find out as we bring you all the racing action live from the circuit side. Indeed, we welcome you to this live broadcast, one of two live broadcasts for your viewing pleasure this evening and throughout the entirety of the season. We have a grand total of 120 drivers competing for championship honours across our four driver classes of Elite, Pro, Premier and Club, and also, of course, the all-important Teams Championship that spans all four classes. We have two splits, therefore. The 120 drivers split into two splits. With Split A, well, you're not tuning Split A right now, but Split A being our Elite and Pro classes, and that being available also on our YouTube channel right now, broadcast live from the circuit side, and you'll be in the very capable hands of none other than the returning Joe Glass as your lead commentator and your broadcaster, and alongside him, its ever-trusty companion in the commentary booth, none other than Darragh Thacker. And a huge shout-out, of course, to Chaz Draycott for standing in for Joe whilst he's taking an extended break, but Joe's back, Chaz is not in the commentary booth, and we do wish Chaz all the best as he focuses the summer at least on what I do believe is the FIA European World Truck Racing Championship. But of course here you're with us in Split B, and this live broadcast brought to you from circuit side by myself. My name is Paul Walsh. I'm back once again in the commentary booth. I'm very happy to be here, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll tell you one thing, it's going to be a joy to cover what will be our Premier and Club class drivers. Now don't fret if you're sat there thinking, well, what about the Evo class? Well, Club is now the new Evo class. We slightly changed name for consistency, but don't worry, Evo hasn't disappeared, it's just been renamed. But this broadcast being brought to you live on the SimRacing International YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com and search for SRI or SimRacing International, and you can be tuning in there on a weekly basis. And why not subscribe today, so that way you don't miss a moment from the championship season, indeed all of our other championships which are broadcasted on a weekly basis. But as we make our way into an all-new season, if you missed the pre-season event, don't worry about it, because we covered all the changes there, and we're going to bring you up to speed with all the changes once again here in the build-up to our first race of the season at Watkins Glen. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring you up to speed with what's in store for season 13. And so we begin, of course, by taking a look at our calendar. No championship would be complete without a calendar, and as we can see, we open up here. It's Thursday, the 2nd of July, and we're at the Watkins Glen Boot Layout Circuit. It's our first of 3 90-minute races for this season, and that's perhaps the biggest change of them all when it comes to the calendar for this season, whereas previously, of course, we have had 60-minute races, and we had the 2x30 sprint format. Well, this season, we decided to shorten down practice by 15 minutes, and to shorten down qualifying by 15 minutes. So both are now 30-minute sessions, and that's why this broadcast is starting half an hour earlier than usual. And what it does mean as a result, we can therefore fit into our schedule endurance racing instead. 90 minutes in duration, 1.5 hours, an extra 30 minutes compared to a normal feature race, and it just adds a little bit more strategy. And we'll come to the rules very shortly and why that's a very important thing. But we begin here at Watkins Glen, and in a week's time, we make our way to Australia for the Mount Panorama circuit, also known as Bathurst. That'll be for a 1 hour race when the sun sets, with mixed conditions expected, potentially rain on the cards. Then around number 3, we'll make it away to Central Europe for the Belgian circuit, the venerable circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and that'll be for a 1-hour race, but we'll then make our way on the 23rd of July to the Virginia International Raceway, back to the US of A, and we'll be there for 2 weeks in a row. First in the US state of Virginia at VIR, and then it will be at Road America. We do see the second of our endurance races, and that'll be completing the first half of the season, with a 90-minute showdown in the US state of Wisconsin. But we won't be having a mid-season break. We'll then be going straight on into round number 6 at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg Grand Prix circuit, and that'll be on the 6th of August. Quite poetic there, I dare say. And then we make it away to France for the Circuit des 24 Hours du Mans, also known as more poetically as Le Mans, and that'll be our 90-minute endurance race there, the third of them. And of course, we couldn't quite go to Le Mans without an endurance race. It's not quite 24 hours of racing, but it will feel like 24 hours by the time our drivers are done with their cars. And of course, that just coming off the back end of what will be mixed conditions in Germany at the Hockenheimring. But then from solid conditions and sunny conditions at Le Mans in round number 7, on the 20th of August, we make our way back to the US of A for the Daytona International Speedway, another stalwart of 24-hour endurance racing. And we see our drivers take on Daytona for a single 1-hour race in our night race of the season, as asked for by our drivers, and indeed quite a spectacle under the floodlights in the US state of Florida. And then on the 27th of August, we make it away back to the European continent for the Red Bull Rings Grand Prix circuit, and that'll be a 1-hour race there in the third and final of our mixed conditions races, where we're potentially expecting rain. And then we'll be bringing the curtain down in the country where it started with the pre-season event at Twin Ring Motegi, or Mobility Resort Motegi, regardless of its name. But indeed, we're in the same country, and we will be making our way to the absolutely legendary Suzuka International Racing Courses Grand Prix circuit on the 3rd of September, and that's where we'll be crowning our champions. Now, for this season, of course, both splits, we have gone away from our Masters and Superstars classifications. We've gone back to Split A and Split B, which we're very much used to, and therefore both splits run into the exact same calendar and run into the exact same sequence of round formats. So there's no difference between Split A and Split B. They will be dealing with the same conditions. They'll dealing with exactly the same races. It's consistency across the board. But what a calendar we do have, no doubt about it. And a brilliant calendar at that. Plenty of variety in there. A circuit for everyone and for every different car. And indeed, we can expect solo drivers to really thrive at some rounds and struggle at others. But that's what this championship is all about, finding the right balance and trying to show you are the best of the best. But when it comes to the prizes our drivers are competing for, well, of course, they're competing for 40 personalised driver trophies, and there's a good mix of them. Let's quickly walk you through them. The top 5 in each of our drivers' championships, whether it be an Elite and Pro in Split A or Premier and Club in Split B, they'll be taking home a trophy each. Our acrylic trophies, very popular at SimRacing International, which do include the driver's name, their car livery, and their team logo on the front, and I also do believe a recap of their results on the back, unless I'm mistaken, and that'll be the first of our 20 trophies to be given out. But then in the Teams Championship, which spans both splits, so you can have a team that's entirely within Split A, as much as you can have a team that's entirely within Split B, or teams that are a mixture of drivers across both splits. What we'll see there's all drivers of the top 5 teams, which teams can be made up to of 4 drivers. We see all 5 drivers in the top 5 teams receive trophies. So therefore, 5 times 4 makes 20, and that's where the other 20 trophies go, and 20 for the drivers, 20 in the Teams Championship, add it all together, and that gives you a total of 40, and a much coveted trophies being competed for once again, and always great to have on the mantelpiece. In fact, so much so, if I wasn't in the commentary booth, I'd be racing as well, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you that, because I'd love to have one of those on the mantelpiece. But of course, if that's the prize our drivers are going for, what about the rules and regulations? And here's where the changes are for this season. Now, as we do see, there are quite a few rules and regulations to be considered there, but alas, we do need to just refresh this page, because there's been a rule that's been clarified very recently, and well, you're about to see, hey presto, there's a bit of an update, and now we do have all the final rules in place there, literally hot off the press, and we'll tell you which one has just come in. You may have noticed it right at the bottom, but we'll get to that. Let's read at the top. Split class assignments. 4 driver classes separated into 2 splits for this season. We have Split A, Elite and Pro, and Split B, Premier and Club. We do not have the 3 classes across the Masters and the Superstar splits for this season. That was an experiment for season 12. We've got plenty of feedback, and a huge thank you to all the drivers who competed in that season. We're very grateful for that input, and never say never. We may bring the Masters and Superstars back at a later date, but we are back to what we've tried and tested. We know it all works. Elite, Pro, Premier and Club. Car setup wise, fuel loads will be restricted to 70%. Now this is back to the fuel load that our drivers will be used to, because of course last season we saw the Masters have 65% and we saw the Superstars have 75%, but we've gone back to the middle. We are back to 70%, which provides a sufficient fuel tank to give our drivers plenty of strategic variety in our feature races and also endurance race rounds. Now, one thing that has really changed for this season, now this is a biggie, 1 car change is permitted. That's as per last season and all of our previous seasons after round 1, but you'll notice there in bold, it is now subject to a championship penalty of 30 points. When you do consider a race win is worth 100 points, Well, you do the mathematics there, and what you quickly find is that suddenly that's 30% of a win. That is a very punishing penalty, and what it will mean is a lot of drivers now will be very much inclined to stay with the car they start the season on. And to be very clear, after they have competed in their first round of the championship, so if a driver doesn't turn up to this round, round number 1, if they turn up to round number 2, whatever car they have picked for the first round they competed in, regardless of whether they score points or not in that round, that is the car they've chosen, and they get 1 car change after that. Indeed, they've got to be very smart for that car change, because of course it will cost them. Qualifying-wise, the session length has been reduced to 30 minutes, as we explained earlier, so that puts a bit of pressure on the qualifying session now that perhaps wasn't there previously. A qualifying scrutiny has been set to moderate to make sure drivers are not abusing the limits too much. Now, as for our races, well, the instant point limits have been slightly adjusted to 16 instant points for drive-through penalty and 26 for a race disqualification, and this has been standardised across all SimRacing International series involving GT machinery, and therefore that just makes things a little bit more considerate, and it means drivers don't have to adjust to different instant points limits depending on what championship they compete in. But perhaps more importantly, with the most recent 2026 Season 3 iRacing update, bringing a whole variety of pit stop regulations to the simulator, pit stops shall now see fuel added before tyres may be changed. Indeed, we are going to what was the 2021 Endurance Championship regulations back in the GTE era, and what it does mean now is that we will see fuel go in and then the tyres can be changed, not in parallel, so it suddenly makes strategy all that more decisive, particularly in the endurance races. Do you just take on fuel and have to try and outlast your rivals on your tyres, or do you change the tyres then, knowing now you're going to have a much longer pit stop, and those pit stops will feel a lot longer for our drivers who normally take tyres, and tyre management could be just as key as being the quickest driver out there on the road. And being smart and strategy, it will be a battle of brains versus brawn. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, those are the rule changes, and if you've got any questions at any point, we're looking at the YouTube chat as well, and we'll say hello to a few of you in a second, but do feel free to throw any questions you've got about the rules and regulations in there and anything else that may have changed this season. Now, as for our host circuit for this season open, well, of course, it's Watkins Glen International's boot layout. The layout added in the late 1980s, and since then, the circuit has withstood the test of time. Located near the village of Dix in Schuyler County of the US state of New York. Indeed, it is slightly south of the town of what is Watkins Glen, from which the circuit is named, but Dix is his actual residence, with a circuit located there, 3.45 miles in length or 5.55 kilometres, depending on your preference of units, but what does not change the number of corners, 11 in total. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it. Now we can see this circuit is all about the sweep and bend, where it will be the run down towards turn number 1 at 90 right, and then the charge with the exit turns 2, 3 and 4, before they make their way in towards the bus stop chicane, or the inner loop chicane as it's also known, but we'll refer to it as the bus stop, as they make their way through the chicane and in towards outer loop at turn number 5. They're sweeping the way through the heavily off-camber corner. They'll quickly make their way down into the chute and into the boot section. Hard on the brakes they'll go for the downhill left-hander at turn number 6, and then they'll make their way uphill through toe at turn 7, where you really need to abuse the camber of the road to brake as late as possible and nail that late apex. There'll be a sprint down the back straight, head up towards turn number 8 at heel corner, and as they make out the boot's hill, they then come over the rise and they'll transition back onto the cup course at turn number 9, a very tricky corner that can catch up many a driver that road surface change, and then they'll make their way into the left-hander at turn number 10, with plenty of runoff area there, but there's very little runoff area at turn number 11, the corner completes lap, but if they carry too much speed, they may find themselves going into the barriers, and hopefully we don't see that. But without further ado, ladies and gents, we brought you up to speed with the story coming into this season, and there's nothing more to cover, so the only thing we should be covering right now is our drivers out there qualified. So let's get to it. And as qualifying continues here, who's looking to be the quickest and who's still trying to find some time, I hear you ask? Well, that's what we're trying to find out as they all make their way around. Rob Gregg out there in the Moonshiners Racing Club car, and given the fact that we do have 2 classes here, for those unfamiliar with how we present these broadcasts, do not need timings out. You do have red stripes against some drivers' names, and you have green stripes as well. To put that all in perspective, if they do have a red stripe against their name, such as Liam Fraser, a current provisional pole sitter overall, and in his class a Premier, well, red stripe means they are a Premier class driver. Meanwhile, you do look to your provisional pole sitter in club currently of Mikkel Salkuni, the Ferrari eSports driver there, currently looking very quick, and he's looking very quick in the club class with that green stripe. Now, on top of that, we'll remind you, of course, of what classes our drivers are in as we go through this commentary and over the course of the season. And also keep in mind that points are scored in this championship purely on class performances. There are no points for pole position in qualifying. All the points are won and paid based on your finishing position in the race. There's no points for fastest lap either in the race. So therefore, all you've got to do is be at the front of your class come the checker flag of the race. It sounds easy, but it's far from that when you do have some absolutely stacked field. And we've got some very stacked grids here when it comes to our Premier and Club drivers. But just before we start talking a little bit about them, we do say hello there to none other than Kitty's Mad, who says, "Oh, I'm so glad this is back. Just Mikel Favrano tonight." Indeed, I did catch up with Marcus Clayton earlier on today, and that's none other than Mikel Salcuni's teammate, who said he can't make this round, but expects him back at Bathurst. It's a bit of a shame we don't get to see both of the Rhino Esports cars out there, but at least we get to see one of them. And I do see a McDonald's car just in front there, and well, I was going to make a bit of a Happy Meal statement out of seeing the Rhino cars there, but I think right now the McDonald's livery has stolen my thunder. And well, to be fair, I do love that livery as much as I do love the Rhino Esport livery and a new colour for them for this season. We typically identify Rhino Esports as running what is a black on yellow, alternatively what can sometimes be their academy cars, or white on red, but here we're running a rather luscious blue on yellow, so that's a new livery there. And I do know that Kitty's Mad, being a big fan of the Rhino Esports team, quite close to them. I wonder if, Kitty, you'll be able to tell us a little bit more about this livery. So it does seem to be a bit of a livery on the car, and it does go well. And Kitty also asks, you can have a trophy for making every race too? Well, we'd love to give you a trophy. What we can do is give you a big shout out. So wherever Rhino Esports goes, to be fair, Kitty's Mad goes as well. It's always great to see her tuned in. We also say hello to Denny Ploger, of course, a multi-time winner in the Thursday GT3 Championship in his classes, and also a podium finisher in the championships in previous seasons. Denny not able to make the grid for season 13, but hoping to be back in season 14, and we do miss Denny, to be fair. He's one of the fan favourites out there, as we do look to newcomer Joshua Downing. Of course, if you were tuning in last time out, you will have known from the pre-season event, that was yesterday when we did the post-round broadcast. Crazy thing how quickly 24 hours flies, but last week when he went racing, he was the quickest of the club drivers who attended the event in his Type 2 McLaren, and well, that car looking like an absolute speed demon right now, but he's not the quickest out there qualifying for the class, because that is Salcuni, and Michael Rhodes is not too far adrift from Salcuni at the moment. Downing's got a bit of time to find, but as he makes his way all around, well, we do also see where's none other than Andrew Chell, Great Mass Motorsport there, who we say hello to as we briefly lose where's Joshua Downing, and well, he seems to have disappeared off into the ether. Hopefully we lost him for an eternity. That's not a good sign that when a driver disappears, but hopefully he does come back. But as we do say hello to Andy there, well, we do have some Great Mass Motorsport cars out there, including Simon Hunt. It's always good to see a Great Mass livery out there, and Simon, of course, did very well in the pre-season event, showed what he's got in that Aston Martin, definitely putting a lot of battling, and we look forward to seeing how far he can go here today and over the course of the season. It's an absolutely packed grid. In fact, we do have, out of our 60 drivers expected to attend, we currently have a grand total of 52 here, and well, plenty of them got laps together, not all of them have, including Felinity V Racing's debutant for this season, and that is Ellen Olsen, making her way on round right now, and I do believe also known as Solstice, but racing under the name of Ellen Olsen for the purposes of this series. And good to see Ellen out there, and we look forward to seeing them do what they can do best here to try and really establish themselves in amongst the field. Racing in the Premier class this season, and Felinity V Racing, they have got, I do believe, 2 teams racing this season, and well, you'll definitely get to see Ellen and their teammate racing throughout. But as we also do say hello there to none other than All About the Gyro, none other than Dwayne Hoffman, of course, a big component of what is Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, saying there about the fact that here to cheer on our sister team, Felinity V Racing, and well, I've learned a little bit of trivia today about the fact that Full Tilt VM, or FTVM, and Felinity V Racing joined together there as what is a brother and sister team. But right now, Olsen's still trying to find a lap out there, but to be fair, this is going to be their first flying lap. Now, we also do say hello to Patrick Prince there, who says, come on the Snack and Sons duo. And indeed, we have the Snack and Sons machines here. And in fact, tell you what we'll do, rather than trying to pick them off spottily, let's go through all of your newcomers, as I understand it, for this season of Premier and then Club. Whilst we've got a bit of time, we'll have to speed demon our way through where we can, because there are a lot of them here, ladies and gentlemen. And well, one name you'll be very familiar with, of course, Mark De Vries. He makes one around, albeit he's not a newcomer or a debutant. It's good to see the SimRacing team Lowlands drive back once again this season in a BMW M4 Evo. But as we do look to new drives, we talked about Mikel Salcuni, who's come over from our GT Championship to the GT3s on Thursday. So good to see him mixing it up in his Ferrari. He's going to be the fastest of the club drivers out there. We also do have Michael Rhodes back once again. And well, Michael this season making his way into a Ferrari. And I do believe a very unique livery on that car. And previously having raced with the Darkwing Racing, I do believe. And well, back in a different car, previously in a Porsche 992, but given the Ferrari a go this season, and we look forward to seeing what he will be able to do in that. We also do have what is new to the grid for this season, and going down from the fastest drivers at the moment, Connor Pink, who does join, and as he makes way around in the Marlboro livery there, well, I don't feel the urge for a cigarette, I can tell you that, but what I am getting is nostalgia there for what is the old McLaren Hondas, the MP44 car, indeed the car, or one of the cars that end up taking the legendary duo of Alan Prost and Ayrton Senna forward, and of course it would become Ayrton Senna after their incident, should we say, or numerous incidents, and Alan Prost leaving the team, and Ayrton Senna becoming the #1 driver in the era of what's the McLaren Honda dominance. And well, I think right now definitely trying to embody that, although it won't be a Honda engine in that McLaren, it will be a McLaren derivative of a Nissan engine in there, and as he makes his way around, well, right now we wish him all the best luck on his debut. We also do have a news to grid out there. We said Joshua Downing, of course, coming from Type 2 Racing, a team filled with heritage, and I'm sure team manager Adam Wilson-Weir will be watching tonight and egging on his drivers as much as possible. And Joshua Downing, I've seen him in a number of series. The first time I ever saw him at race was in the Next Gen Touring Car Championship, the best part of 3 years ago. Crazy to think I can remember that far back. I really am getting old now, although to be fair, I think that's my memory coming to me. To do so, make his way around, and well, goes very sideways there into Hill Corner, and the car disappears and comes to a halt. And as it does so there, well, Joshua Downing does get it back together. That's not the way he'll want it to go, but get all the mistakes out nice and early, Josh, and that way you don't make them in the race. He's kind of the full fastest in club. So Cooney jumps up to third overall then, a 43.004. That is a staggering lap, 3 tenths off the overall pole time set by Menno Blom. But we're getting distracted here. Let's carry on our way down the order, because we also do have Ross Wheatley racing as part of DC Motorsport for this season. DC Motorsport backward bang, and that's the team known as Dave Collier Motorsport. And speaking of Dave Collier, well, there is team manager and principal Dave Collier, and you will see them spread across what is our 2 splits, whereby you do have Jared Love and also none other than Peter Duke racing as part of Split A, and where you do have Dave Collier and his teammate there of Ross Wheatley racing as part of Split B. So we wish them all the best luck. The team back after taking a break in Season 12. They were on the grid in Season 11, but we do get to see Dave Collier back once again, and Ross Wheatley a fresh face for the team. We also do have on the grid today new as well, none other, and what I do believe, Petr Florian, and we did see him, of course, in the pre-season event, look quite quick in qualifying trim, but race trim and MotoGP was a little bit weaker by comparison. But to be fair, we didn't quite have as big of a field in the pre-season event. That was entirely optional for our drivers, no points available, as compared to what we have here. And Florian right now making his way onwards, and the Czechia driver making his way through the bus stop chicane at the moment, and we look forward to seeing what he can do. And Czechia, of course, being the new name for the country of the Czech Republic, and well, I may accidentally mince the two together at some point. You have to forgive me for that, ladies and gentlemen, on the Walshisms, but I have been given some pronunciations in order to be able to say certain names correctly, and also trying to get country names correct as well. And I do appreciate it when drivers do give a shout out on that. But as Petr Florian makes his way onwards, meanwhile, we also do have what is new to the grid for this season, none other than Adam Waters, as he makes his way onwards, and he'll be racing in the club class this season. It's 269, and well, I do believe they're lovely livery Aston Martin. I want to say that's got a bit of a derivation from Beachling livery car, although I may be wrong, that to be fair. In fact, I think I am wrong. That Beachling liveries were what was a deep blue with yellow striping on them. There is a car I'm thinking of with regards to Aston Martin livery, and it may just be coincidence, to be fair. I can't put my finger on it at the moment. Makes way on down the back stretch. Let him go. James Haworth there. And Haworth in his Ford Mustang, currently the full fastest overall and third of your Premier Drives in this qualified session. We also do have another new face in the form of Govin Suresh as he heads down the start finish straight. Then a very colourful McLaren Centra TS Evo. We always love a splash of colour on a car. Well, the Chaps Motorsport driver making his way on around. The Chaps Motorsport here in full force for this season. Indeed, after what was a bit of a dipping of a toe by none other than Sam Hockley into a previous season of GT3 Championship. That was on Sundays, I want to say. Well, they are back in full force for this season and racing as part of the Thursday Championship, which is good to see. And Govin Suresh being a part of the team as he makes well through. And as he does so well right now, he'll be keeping his head down here and was very excited to be going racing today. He's got a 40th fastest, or what is 24th in our Premier class. Also out there, we do have the newcomer of Paul Mayer, and he'll be racing for Ellis Racing this season in the Porsche 992 there. Lovely livery on the car. Obviously, we're used to liveries on these cars, to be fair. That's not to say they're boring, but they are lovely liveries, and they always shine very high in the hearts of many who enjoy a good livery. But as he makes his way around, we also do say hello to Ollie Smith, who joins the grid, and will make his way through the quarters here. And the Ghost Lab racing driver, a priority. He is a sole team entry, but he does have his team name there. And as he makes his way onwards, well, he's currently 45th in in 18th place of the club class right now. And, well, very happy to have Ollie here, full of enthusiasm. And, well, definitely a bit of a ghastly or ghostly livery there. And, well, will he frighten some as he makes his way for moves today? Could he scare somebody to outbreak themselves? You never know. Heading onwards, we do look a further down the order. We do have a couple other drivers who are new to the grid here, and I believe we have got a couple of drivers out the car. So unfortunately, we can't formally introduce none other than our Welshman of Ross Wheatley, who has joined the grid for this season, but we're very happy to see him out there. And he was, of course, racing the pre-season event at Multigee. And we've got a few other fresh faces here. Not all of them are here today, of course, although we do have Jelmer Bergsma, who makes his way through the quarters right now, and he does join in the Premier Class in an Aston Martin V8 Vantage Evo. Good to see Jelmer here, and we'll look forward to see what the 188 driver could do. We've also got Jack Giles, who's joined the grid, and well, he's moved over from the Sunday Championship into the Thursday GT3 Championship, after achieving what was none other than a very strong set of results in Sunday GT3 Season 18. Not quite able to beat Adam Lynch, but coming close in the club class and back here this season in the club class as well. As Adam Lynch has also made his way onto the grid, although he has made his way all the way into the pro class, given his performances on Sunday. So there's a difference there, as we got Jack Giles here in club, and well, very much looking forward to seeing what he can do. We also do have Michael Lecco as the Ferrari driver makes his way in towards turn number 6. He's racing as part of the LS Racing team. They've got 2 teams on the grid this season. I believe he's part of LS Racing 2, and well, he's also part of running wide there and just brushing the barrier there. He's not quite joined the club of hitting the barrier fully there at turn number 6. Very easy to do. But as we've been introducing everyone, we introduce also Josh Holmes, who's joined the grid as part of Dexterous Motorsport. Well, not part of Dexterous Motorsport, therefore the camera was following the Porsche. In fact, just my manners here. He's part of the, I believe, the Stack and Sons team, and he'll be out there in the Ferrari 296. Now, of course, he's got to be part of Stack and Sons because he's got Yorkshire tea on the side of the car, and he's making me very thirsty and also very hungry. Stack and Sons here in full force, and it's brilliant to see. Indeed, it is an absolutely stacked grid, no doubt about it, ladies and gentlemen. If I have missed introducing anyone, I do know we have Billy Brinkley joining for 9 Pegasus Panther Racing, and we also do have out there Gianluca Rospo for Deep Motorsport. He's the much-loved club driver, of course, from GTE Season 2, who put on some absolutely incredible strategic performances to try and steal away podiums. Well, we haven't quite been able to introduce them because we haven't seen them out there, and we'll definitely catch up at some point, as we also do have Andy Rooney out there for Valenti V Racing, partnering with Ellen Olsen in the club class. But ladies and gents, with 4 minutes left to go in this qualifying session, we owe you an on-board lap. And well, we'll very shortly be jumping on board at 4-1 as we do see Minna Blom, currently your provisional pole sitter, making his way onto his final qualifying laps. We need to get one from the start, and who better to go with than Ross Wheatley as he takes us around for a flyer here at Watkins Glen. It's coming down in towards 90 right at turn 1, braking at the 300-yard board, avoids going on the apex curve. There goes a little bit wide of it, and that's probably just because the way he's got the car set up, but he's sensitive to curb touches. We're coming up through the S's now. He'll definitely want to stay nice and close to the curves here to straighten his run through the S's. And well, car going a bit slowly there, but he'll pick up the draft of that car as he makes his way onwards. That car will stay over to the right-hand side most likely, and that means Wheatley is going to be absolutely clear as he now makes his way in towards the bus stop chicane. Looks to his left-hand side. He'll use his brake mark at the 300-yard board, taps the brakes, drops 2 gears, throws the car through the bus stop, understeers a little bit wide there, a bit too aggressive on the right into left transition, but just about kept it within track limits. He makes his way now down through the outer loop and onwards towards Chute Bend. Now into the boot section, braking downhill here, braking about 150 metres from corner apex. It's a very late apex this corner. It keeps going until it stops, and you suddenly see that exit curb, and now brings the car gently over to the left-hand side, and this is to open up where his toe corner as much as possible. The idea being you brake about 50 metres from apex there because you're braking uphill, just understeers out a little bit wide, a bit too early on the throttle. Wheatley pushing hard here, not helped perhaps by the dirty air of the car in front, but it was a double-edged sword. It gains its speed on the straights, but takes away front-end grip on the corners. But in towards Hill with a lovely line through there, braking up towards the 300-yard board, and now making his way up towards turn number 9. Blind summit corner this one, you brake for a corner you can't see, and then you turn in and see what you've exactly done. You have to do that braking zone of muscle memory, and well, good line there from it as he now makes his way onwards towards what will be turn number 10 through left-hander here. Keep it within the track limits as much as possible to give yourself the best line into turn 11. Now into that sharp right hand, and you'll see on the left-hand side it's a barrier, but for Ross Wheatley, he decides to head to the pit lane there and shows you how quick you come into the pits. Indeed, you are on the racing line as you brake for the pit lane. But as he comes on in, well, thank you to Ross for the onboard lap there, as we do see the return of Dean Sheesby to the grid. Well, goodness me, Moonshine's Racing Club really bringing out all the guns here. Looking to go fighting. And well, it's been a little bit of time since we've seen Dean out there, but it's good to see him in his Ferrari. And right now make his way onwards. And well, We look forward to seeing what he can do. Rob Gregg in the Ferrari as well. Interesting the way that Moonshine's Racing Club, the MRC team, have split the cars for this season because they're both in Ferraris, and then you've got Liam Fraser and a Ford Mustang. So they've decided to go for, well, it's a bit of rear-wheel drive on half the team, and front engine rear-wheel drive on the other half of the team by the looks of things. And the Fraser brothers, of course, an integral part of Moonshine's Racing Club, as much as we have Greg and also Sheesby. But 1.5 minutes left to go, and we do say hello to a few more of you there in the YouTube chat, including none other. Oh no, that's not great news, and that is S18 RSG, or in other words, if you're wondering who that is, that's what the driver's saying. Instead passed away midway through qualifying as feared. Looks like I'm watching from a distance, and he did mention it earlier on today. He was struggling, and we were hoping. I had my fingers on my toes crossed, and I will now uncross them for him, and none other than Ross Wheatley, who was making his way out, but unfortunately for the Welshman, things have not worked out. But we hope to see him back out there for what will be round number 2, and hopefully he can get on top of those internet challenges, Ross, because I can tell you one thing, it's not quite the same when we don't have you out there, and that's not the way we want you to start your season. We hope to see you back out there sooner rather than later. But as all drivers make the way on through, we do have Andy Chell out there as well, who was just checking in the chat before he's made his way back out. And there is Andy Chell, the nicest man in the world when it comes to racing. Of course, an absolute gentleman on the circuit, as he is off the circuit. Although, to be fair, all the drivers are very nice individuals as far as I've been informed and as far as I've spoken to in the past. But Andy really does take the top prize at points, to be fair. And as he makes his way on through, they're always happy to have a conversation. I'm sure we'll be getting a few interviews with him over the course of this season, as he makes his way a bit wide out of turn number 9 and on to his final lap as he roars his way around. But as he does so, trying to keep it as best as possible together, and well, does seem as though there Andy Chell right now just rolling his way through the corners. But as he does so, he decides to come into the pit lane, does not go any further, and we do look to John Treen meanwhile, and Treen currently running in 7th place. And coming down towards the braking zone here for what will be turn number 8. Well, John Treen back for the Axis Sim Sport with Sim Coach team. And well, we know John is a very quick driver as the qualifying flag sees its end. And we have got the checkered flag out instead. And what it does mean is that now they're all on their final laps. Overtime rules are in effect. So if a driver is on a lap, they are allowed to finish it, but no more than that. And they will have to finish that lap and see if they can go even further. Otherwise, it'll be their previous lap that counts the best. As we do see Treen coming out the final corner and does not run that wide out the final corner. He's not on a happy lap. And well, that is a car that's going to be towed to the pit lane. But Christopher Petty, currently 5th fastest out there in club. He may have something to say here as he makes his way onwards. And right now, what could he do here? And well, he rolls his way through turn number 10 in that McLaren. And every time I look at that livery, I am feeling an urge for some food right now. Even though I've had dinner this evening, ladies and gentlemen. As he makes his way out of the final quarter here, he's hungry for pole position. But what's it going to be? He was 17th for 5th in class. And the answer to the question is going to be, it's up into 3rd place in club and 13th overall for Christopher Petty. Now, can Josh Holmes improve? He comes to the line. He does not. The Snack and Sons driver stays where he is. As we see a bit of a weave behind there from one of the other drivers. And meanwhile, we've got a few more trying to improve as Rob Mackay makes his way down towards turn number 1. As he does he find any time out there? The answer is no. Ellen Olsen, meanwhile, finds a lot of time out there and jumps all the way from 43rd to 29th, 21st in the Premier class. So Olsen, they're doing a good job. Lovely livery on the car, must be said. The Fluency car looking absolutely stellar. And Rainer Olsen parking up there, having done what they can. And will now decide to park up and take it to the pits. But that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And it is Menno Blom who takes the maiden pole position of the season overall and in the Premier. And he will be joined on that front row, only 300ths apart by Liam Fraser. BMW versus Ford. A very potent rivalry at the front there. Both cars which are very powerful when it comes to straight line speed. But the BMW more handy in the corners and the braking zones compared to the Ford, which really is the top end master. Mikhail Salkuni, how about that? The Rhino Esports driver there, getting himself off to a perfect start for this season. 3rd place in qualifying overall, and that is none other than club pole position there, and that is a stellar margin of the best part of 3 tenths to Michael Rhodes, who just snuck ahead of Christopher Petty in terms of time in the end, but close between the pair of them, and they will be 12th and 13th to make 2nd and 3rd in your club class. Joshua Downing, well, he takes 15th overall, 4th in club class. Still an impressive lap from him, to be fair. He won't be too happy about that. I think he'll feel as though he could have done better. He'll push himself even harder, but something tells me that when he reflects on it, starting from there is not going to be too bad, and he'll complete the top 15. But looking at further down the order, we have had some surprise performances from some drivers, but we can't dwell on those for too long, because as we look to the scenic view, Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to get set for our race, albeit we've got a 5-minute warm-up period before we do go racing, and this is a prime opportunity for our drivers to take a little bit of a breather, and indeed, they need to change the setup on the car, if they need to get out of the car in order to be able to take what is a bathroom break, alternatively get themselves on top of a liquid refreshment or something in between, it's their time to do so. And of course, it's your time to do so as well, ladies and gentlemen. If you're sat there right now thinking, I'm probably going to need to go to the bathroom about 2 minutes into this race, or you're sat there thinking, you know what would really polish this off? A really nice cup of tea, alternatively a soft drink, some water, or alternatively an alcoholic beverage, if you're so inclined, go get it now. You've got 4 minutes to go do so, because afterwards you won't want to miss a moment. You'll be glued to your screen for what will be the first of our races, and it's not just any race, it's a 1.5-hour endurance race here at Watkins Glen to start off the season. Now we're going to go quiet for a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, and that's because there has been a bit of an issue with one of the liveries of one of our drivers as loaded onto the broadcast. Don't worry, the broadcast isn't going to shut itself down, but we are just going to go quiet whilst we do take care of that issue. We're going to leave you with the pictures of a few of our drivers making their way around, including of course Matthew Massey back with Spectre Racing once again, the lovely livery car. So do bear with us, we'll be back as quickly as we can as we resolve this issue in the background. But you can hear the sounds of machines in the meantime. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that issue may have been fixed. We'll find out soon enough. And, well, we will be taking some more resolving action as we transition to the gridding procedure. But don't you worry about that. We do apologise for the slight interruptions to the broadcast there as we do carry on. But what did we see out of qualifying? Well, we got to see a variety of cars towards the front, but what we definitely did see right towards the front of the field, of course, was power machines in the form of the BMW and the Ford. We also got to see some Ferraris up there. And the Ferrari a bit an oddity of a car in GT3 at this time. Always has been, to be fair, in terms of its implementation, whether it be in the real world, alternatively on the simulator. Because this being the Ferrari 296, Ferrari's latest edition, and their first deviation away from a V8 or an 8-cylinder engine, instead going to a 6-cylinder engine supplemented by a turbo. The Roadcon, which is based, of course, being a 6-cylinder with a hybrid engine, or a hybrid supplement to it. And as we do see the English driver Greg make his way into the pit lane. The reason this car's been a bit of an oddity is it's a handling car, but it has exceptional top-end speed. The only thing about that top-end speed is the car has very long gearing in 5th and 6th gear. And 6th gear you do not want to touch unless you're racing at Daytona. You typically want to be in 5th gear on the straights in this car because the 5th gear is so long and 6th gear is even longer and you just lose speed otherwise. So expect the Ferraris to be quick in the corners and take an eternity to get out there on the straights, as we do see the Moonshiners Racing Club boys all together there making their way along the pit lane. Well, how's that for a photo opportunity as they all make their way off the limiter one by one? And I think they might have timed that as Dean Sheesby leads them back out the pit lane. But as they do, well, glad we caught that, as we also have just caught this man. And, well, we found the Deep Motorsport driver, and, well, I know there's going to be quite a few of you a big fan of Gianluca Rospo, and here he is. And goodness me, is he a cool customer there? I can tell you one thing, if I was as cool as that wearing sunshades, well, I never will be, because I can tell you one thing about Gianluca, he is as cool as a cucumber when it comes to doing what others will not in races when it comes to strategy. Indeed, his big thing, of course, in the GT Championship Season 2 was in wet to dry transition races, typically staying on the wet tyres when nobody should be on the wet tyres, and almost making it work. At the Circus Bar, Frank Grosjean's almost stealing his maiden podium in the season, only then to have James Bostock nab it away. But what a close ending it was over a 90-minute race. But it's good to see Gianluca out there. Well, we very much look forward to seeing what strategy he can pull off here today, and whether he can surprise some out there as he makes his way onwards. Well, we do have some other faces out there as well, no doubt about it. And that does include none other than, there's Liam Fraser, tucked in behind a Corvette. And I do believe, whilst we don't have Rachel Hugh here today for Blue Sky Esports, unfortunately unavailable due to personal circumstances, but we will be seeing her back as of round 2 onwards. We do have Stuart Rice, her teammate. Stuart back once again for Blue Sky Esports and also fielding the Corvette. Really happy to see that the team are bringing the pair of Corvettes to the grid for this season. I tell you one thing, the Corvette not the most popular car in iRacing, but if you can master it, it can be a very quick car at that, as proven by Richard Simnor in the Superstars Pro class in that freeway fight for the championship crown last season. He's now racing in Elite. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the warm-up period is complete. It is time for our drivers to make the way to the grid. It is time for our first race of the season here, being none other than the Watkins Glen International Circuit. Who is going to be taking victory? Let's find out as they all head out onto track. And so, as all of our drivers make the way onto the grid, this is the lineup for the first race of the season and our only race here today. It is none other than Menno Blom, who takes Split B's pole position, Premier and also overall. The SimRacing Team Alone Drive being joined on the front row by Liam Fraser for MRC Bootleggers. Behind him, starting in third, it's going to be Michele Salcuni on his debut, taking pole position in the club class. The Italian absolutely flying, and well, a big round of applause to him for taking that. That's an achievement on your first round of the championship. Nadine Sheesby, the Moonshine's Racing Club Rebels driver there, started in fourth place. So MRC, in fact, bringing two teams to the grid this season. How could I forget? And James Haworth started in fifth place for Dexterous Motorsport Cyan. Keep your eyes out for him. He's in his favourite car, the Ford Mustang. He's got it all polished up and ready to go. And how far can he go with it? Only 200s behind him in qualifying. Mark DeVries for SimRacing Team Lowlands. And then we did see John Treen taking seventh place at Access SimSport with Sim Coach. John LeBrut, eighth on the grid there for GPX SimSport Xenon, ahead of Clyde Vella for GPX SimSport Xenon, his teammate. The two separated by half a tenth. And then Matthew Massey completes the top 10 for Spectra Racing. Outside the top 10 in 11th place, it's now Ross Wheatley there for DC Motorsport, ahead of Michael Rhodes, the second of your club drivers of Darkwing Racing. MRC Bootleggers there in 13th place because it's Christopher Petty, and he'll be in the company of Barry Wenman for Dexterous Motorsports. We then do have behind the Magenta driver Joshua Downing for Type 2 Racing, ahead of Connor Pink, and from the privateer it will then be Simon Hunt, who starts 17th for Quackmass Motorsport. 18th we've got Robin Aston for 5M Racing, ahead of Hussein Sarakadesla, and the GPX for Onyx driver being followed up by his teammate of James Bostock, completing that top 20. 21st, we've got Eddie Fearbold, just ahead of none other and then Josh Holmes, a good debut qualifying performance from him at 6th place in club. How can he convert that into a top 5? Then we do see DC Motorsports. Dave Collier starting 23rd place, ahead of Stuart Rice of Blue Square Esports, with Jordan Butler 25th on the grid for Spectre Racing, ahead of the privateer and debutants of Petr Florian. Then we do see in 27th, it's Andy Chell for Quackmass Motorsport, ahead of 5M Racing's Daniel Miller. Mr. I'm either 100% for victory or I'm not going to be near the podium at all. I wonder which way it's going to go this season for Miller, given we know how quick he can be. We then do see Ellen Olsen on their debut, started 29th for Valenti V Racing, ahead of James Fraser for MRC Bootleggers. And then outside the top 30, 31st, it's Pete Pye for LS Racing 1, ahead of MRC Rebels' Rob Gregg. With Martin Brandon, he's bringing the Ferrari in the end. So that Ferrari shown in the pre-season was the car he wanted to go with. I was wondering if it was, and well, he starts 33rd at Access SimSport with SimWorks. Dexterous Motorsports Magenta's Martin Kenyon joins him at 17th for the grid, ahead of Paul Mayer, who starts 35th at LS Racing 2. Rob Mackay is 36th for Dexterous Motorsports Cyan, ahead of LS Racing 2's Michael Lecco. Then we do have Max Dean for GavMax Racing, starting 38th in his Lamborghini Huracan, and welcome to him to the grid. And we do have Jack Giles, 39th for Eurotitans Endurance, just ahead of Adam Waters' team Noobish. There's nothing noobish about where he's starting, given the fact he's starting just off of the top 15 in club. Behind him will be Ashley Shucksmith and none other than Govind Suresh for Chaps Motorsport. Dexterous Motorsport Science, Danny Weir starts 43rd ahead of Yelma Bergsma. And then from the Lewis Homewood Racing Dutchman, it'll be Gianluca Rospo for Deep Motorsport. Ollie Smith on his debut for Ghostless Motorsport starts 46th ahead of Gavin Corby for GavMax Racing. And then we do have the driver who can't take to the grid, sadly, despite setting a qualifying time, and that is due to the technical issues with his internet, and that is Ross Gillett. And then we do have none other than Eduardo Indino for LS Racing 2, started 49th ahead of Steve Hughes. The Welshman bring up the rear of the field in 50th place. So that's how they'll all line up, ladies and gentlemen, although I do believe, in fact, we have a couple more cars. In fact, we do have some more cars. My apologies there. Andy Rooney started 51st for Valena TV Racing, and Peter Armstrong for Ghost Squadron Motorsport completing the starting order. Well, by my manners there, Andy and Peter, I owe you both a drink if you ever catch this and think I've inconvenienced you on that one, because we didn't want to miss you out. So 52 drivers here. They're all absolutely ready to go. And well, as they all make the way on through the last couple of quarters, but there can only be one driver who leads the field around, and it is going to be none other than Menno Blom, who makes his way rather gently right now through the last couple of quarters. And as he does so, makes his way through turns 10 and 11, almost all set and ready to go. It is over to Menno Blom then to take us to the green for the first of our races this season. It is our 90-minute endurance race here at Watkins Glen for round number 1 of Split B's SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship Season 13. And it's lights and away we go for season 13. The split V roars its way down towards 90 right. And as they do, the field gets going. But look on the inside there. James, however, immediately going to the attack. Trying to find a way past Mikel Salkudi, but it's not going to work. Salkudi finds himself in the middle as that's an adventurous Mark De Vries going a bit too wide. But now we blip to the blimp view as they all make their way out through the S's here. The whole field through the opening quarter at least. But this is where things get a little bit testy. Car very sideways there. It hits the barrier and stays with the barrier. A couple of drivers backing off there, but it looks as though it's just one car going sideways. Nothing more than that. Couldn't quite see who it was. Oh, and it's got a bit rolled further down the order. Adam Watkins has to back off there. And a few cars being caught to the barrier, Ollie Smith being caught up, and everyone doing very well to react there as best as possible. But it is a bit of a traffic jam further down the order, but the majority of the field has safely made its way through the opening corners, and then that's the car being spat out there through the bus stop. Couldn't quite see who it was, and I think that might have been Gavin Corby there being sent wide. We're going to need to get a few replays, no doubts about that, and we'll get back to those replays when we can, ladies and gentlemen, because there's plenty of fighting going on. There is John Ludbrook, GT3 Sports Xenon, roaring his way around right now, and as he does so, we're looking around the outside of Mikel Salkudi, and the club leader right now holding his ground. But look at Clyde Vella going on the attack here, trying to support his teammate as he looks around the outside of De Vries. But De Vries right now finding himself absolutely pinned into a position here where he can't go forward, he can't go backward. He doesn't know which way to go at the moment, but roaring the way onwards. You can see they're coming over the hill first and foremost. That's John Treen in the Axis SimSport McLaren, as that's going to be Vella looking around the outside of Salkudi. Can he get it done? He's almost there. He's on the inside now, turn number 9. It's an important move here early on as he does clear De Vries, and Salkudi's going to back off as meanwhile Barry Wenman goes on the attack. And right now Ross Wheatley behind. As car being ejected, that's Matthew Matthews had a big going around, coming through turn number 9. You see them slightly off to the left-hand side of your picture. We'll get a replay of that when we can. But meanwhile, the drivers make their way onwards. Well, James Fraser right now attacking Hussein Sarkadesla. And, well, looking for an opportunity. That's not going to work there with the Ferrari driver. In fact, going a bit too wide. Didier Fraser does get past. Andy Cho essentially pushed him along and says to him, go on, James, I need you to get a move on. The IMSA SportsCar driver definitely feeling a bit of pressure as they make their way down towards turn number 1. But after one lap of racing, there's plenty more to come here today. It's Menno Blom who leads ahead of Liam Fraser, followed by Dean Sheesby. Then we do John Lupert and Clive Vella. They complete your top 5 overall winning Premier. Then it's your club leader for Rhino Esport Edge Overlays, another Mikel Salkudi ahead of Mark De Vries, Barry Wenman and Ross Wheatley, all Premier drivers. Then we have Joshua Downing, who survived the open lap and has done a brilliant job to move to second. He's on the chase here, trying to make up for a disappointing qualifying performance in his own words. But meanwhile, Mark De Vries here battling side by side with Barry Wenman coming into the chicane. Right now, still too wide. Wenman uses all the road and real estate with it. I'm amazed he's able to keep that together going over the curb, but to be fair, that shows the talent and the setup on that car as they make their way out to the right hander. Now in towards turn number 6 they go. De Vries defending hard here. Wenman looking around the outside. Is it going to work for Wenman? The answer is no. De Vries making that BMW really wide right now. But it's not just about the fighting further up the field, there's also fighting further down the field. Gianluca Rospo already up what is the best part there of 21 places, and well, now he's going to be only making 20 places. That's Paul Mayer up his inside, but the point is that Rospo has actually flown his way up the field, gone from 27th in Premier up to 17th, and it is a roughly 50-50 split of class drivers here. We have got some absolutely packed fields, so there's someone to fight for everyone out there as they make their way onwards. That's the great vehicles. As always, drives your skill level only a 10th away. But as Rospo finds Adam Waters now looking at his inside, well, Waters wants to clear him quite quickly because he's got the pressure of Pete Piper and Danny Weir behind, and he'll do that there. It's going to be straight up the inside there from Waters. Smooth move being made by the Aston Martin driver. Meanwhile, Jack Giles a bit further back, and as he does so, missed the front bumper there. He was the driver who really got caught up in that lap 1 turn 4 incident. We're not quite sure the story, and we have just had Petr Florian make his way into the pit lane as well, so that's not good news for the privateer, and we'll try to understand what's happened to him in due course. But right now, still fighting out there. Peter Armstrong down in the attack versus John Treen. And Treen, one of the biggest losers at the start of this race. Well, I didn't quite see what happened to Treen, and well, we'll have to find out what's happened to him because he's gone all the way down the order and will make his way in towards turn number 8 at the moment. Well, he'll be feeling a bit of pressure, no doubt about it, to get a move on. And Peter Armstrong will just follow him. But meanwhile, oh, look at this. This is 2x2 going in towards turn number 1, and that's Steve Hughes there, who started right at the back of the field in 50th place. Now up in the 33rd there, trying to clear Haworth, and I think it was Haworth who ended up in the barrier coming through turns 2 and 3 before 4. And if so, that all adds up to way so far back and why the car's in a relatively clean condition. He's got a bit of a scratch or a scrape on the front right bumper, but beyond that, not too much at the moment. As Ashley Shucksmith, well, right now the privateer absolutely pushing his way through, and we'll get him past Danny Weir there for 11th place in the club class, making some quick progress as we show you those class standings on the left-hand side of your screen. And once the drivers continue to roar and rocket the way round, plenty more fighting to come from everyone, no doubt about it. And we'll have to wait and see what is coming next up for all these drivers as they make their way deep and deep into this race. Well, looking at 2 class stands, we see the top 20 of both, As right now, there's more fighting just in front, and that is going to be Hussein Sarkadesla in the GP3 Championship on its car, looking for a move. But Adam Waters is the one who's cleared it. Right now, Waters is flying out there. Well, I get the feeling that Adam Waters might be making up for a qualifying session here, because that Aston Martin is not the same Aston Martin that qualified all the way down in 16th place in the club class. I can tell you that with the pace he's showing. But as they make the one around, well, everyone pushing absolutely as hard as humanly possible. And there has been a lot of misfortune for drivers further back. And to give you an update, we do have Ellen Olsen in the pit lane with the car being repaired, being caught up in the turn 2 through to 4 incident. And I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding for a few drivers of essentially how they all queued up into blocked road, where some drivers have gotten to the brakes, others did not, from what we're hearing. However, the stewards will definitely be taking a look at that one. And in the meantime, we'll try and get a replay of it when we can. As meanwhile, Stuart Rice and Simon Hunt fighting for third in club right now. Now, this is a rivalry that goes back the best part of 5 seasons between these two. They have been rivals and good friends pretty much every time they've been out on circuit together, with Stuart Rice typically getting the upper hand versus Simon, but Simon's never been too far behind. But of course, different machines this season, particularly for Stuart Rice, normally running a BMW M4 Evo, but this season going to the Corvette. It seems to be suiting him and Rachel so far, although it doesn't suit him when he gets it wrong like that into the inner loop. And well, that's going to enable Simon Hunt to get through straight away. A bit too much curb there for Stuart Rice, and well, unfortunately the bump stops there, being shocked to a stop by the curb. And now Stuart Rice loses that place, and James Fraser trying to close up here as they make the way onwards towards the chute. As they do, Fraser's got one thing on his mind, which is trying to get through as quickly as he can, because Daniel Miller's there and Andy Chell's not too far behind. And something tells me that IMSA SportsCar during the downtime from season 12, they've been working very hard, because right now it's good to see Chell right up there, good to see Hunt up there as well. There's no reason why they can't make it a double top 5 today. Oh, goodness me. And that was close between Fraser and Miller. And well, I think there, Daniel Miller tried to get into a bit of a space that was going to close. Fraser closed it shut firmly. And I think the two cars got hooked on each other for a brief moment, but they both did very well there to avoid that becoming what's a domino effect. And we would have seen both cars go to the barrier. But as they make the way onwards, well, meanwhile, Christopher Petty fighting side by side with Adam Waters. It's Petty on what is the inside there as he makes his way up the hill, and right now absolutely attacking as much as possible. As he rolls his way through the corner, right now Petty in that lovely 291 machine. Well, he's enjoyed himself out there in the McLaren, no doubt about it. And well, the McDonald's livery absolutely proud on the car. As he makes his way onwards, following Waters still, but definitely a Moonshiners Racing Club car. And I do wonder whether he's got the right livery on that car, to be fair, but if not, I'm sure we can get that fixed for round number 2. But as we look from him, let's come all the way back to the front of the field, and here we can see your race leader, Menno Bloem for SimRacing Team Lowlands, and look at the gap he's dictating at the moment, 1.1 seconds versus Dean Sheesby. Sheesby right now staying relatively with Bloem, but Bloem is managing that gap, and I think Sheesby here also playing the game, which is I don't need to beat him right now, I need to beat him over 90 minutes, not in 10 minutes. And well, that's always an important part there. Sounds really obvious, but it's very easy when you're out on the circuit to forget that, see a car in front of you and chase it like you're a bull to a matador. And that's the thing, you've got to pace yourself in these races, particularly with the new fuel stop regulations, where you must take fuel before you change tyres. You cannot do them in parallel. Suddenly pit stops will feel a lot longer for those who can't manage the tyres and manage the fuel. But meanwhile, it's been a driver who's managing it well. There's Connor Pink, the privateer, in the Marlboro McLaren, as he makes way around there, chasing after Barry Wenman and Ross Wheatley. Well, these three all going well. The McLaren's really coming alive in race trim, to be fair, compared to what has been at their qualifying trim. It does seem as though they do better over distance rather than over a single lap. We saw that between Remote Gee, and we're seeing it here today at Watkins Glen as well, also just known as the Glen. It's its affectionate nickname, if you will, in the US of A. That's Connor Pink follows on. Right now, Mikhail Salkuni at the head of this group. He is the wolf amongst the sheep because he is, of course, the club driver. Or is he the sheep amongst the wolves here, given the way the classes should work out? Well, I'll let you guys and girls at home be the judge of that. And as he makes his way onwards, and all these drivers do, and see behind Joshua Downing steadily closing in his own McLaren. They're getting into the McLaren train for Type 2 racing very gradually indeed. But more fights going on as we look a bit further down the order. Jack Giles is still a heavily wounded McLaren, where he's trying to make his way forward for Eurotitus Endurance Pink. And well, what's going to be the game plan right now? As he gets ready to battle with Andy Rooney of the Survivor Infinity V-Racing car. And good to see him out there. Indeed, we didn't quite get to see too much from it in qualifying. Started 23rd in club and what was 51st overall. And Rooney right now definitely having a much better day in the race compared to qualifying. Has been aided somewhat by the open lap incident. There's no disagreeing about that. But also he's got to be in the right place at the right time to make up the places. And he's done a phenomenal job of that. But into the pit lane and leaving it is Danny Weir. So he comes back out. And as he does so, he comes back out on the lead lap, dropping a long way down the order. And as he does so there, backing off entirely. Well, it does look as though they're taking it very carefully as he makes way up the road. And well, Dexterous Motorsport Scientron might be thinking about a game plan here of some description, but I'm not quite sure what. And we do know a few drivers were discussing the prospect of a potential 2-stop here today versus a 1-stop. Which strategy do you go for? And the reason for that is because with the 70% fuel tank, it does take you approximately 40 minutes into the race if you fuel save. So therefore, you'd have to do an extra 5 minutes of fuel saving. You'd then have to fill the fuel tank up to the brim, and you'd have to fuel save for the second stint, whereas the 2-stop is essentially a long first stop and a splash and dash, or vice versa. And well, if you haven't had a good race so far, taking an early splash and dash if you're committing to the 2-stop actually could be very powerful, because essentially if you come into the pits around 5 to 6 laps into this race, you put yourself out of sequence of the field and you're not too far back to be potentially at risk of being lapped by the lead drivers. So actually you buy yourself some clear space and you can start to pick off places on strategy in the longer term. But of course, that's the game plan you've got to think about. Oh, that's a big sideways man there for Andy Chell, and as he does so there, there's an Acura going through, and well, that's Martin Kenyon. He takes one. Can he take two of them here? And Dexterous Motorsport's Magenta driver, the record holder for the most points picked up in any season of racing in the UK SimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship hosted by SimRacing International, the only driver to ever go above 1,000 points in a single season. He's here on the grid for the first day GT3 Championship in season 13, and he's bringing the car that nobody wants to drive, the Acura NSX Evo 22, and that is because this is one of those cars that is incredibly sensitive on its tyres. And right now Martin Kenyon doing a good job as he continues to make his way forward, albeit Premier driving amongst club drivers, but right now he's fighting his way forward and already up 8 places compared to where he started in class in 22nd, now 14th full class and 20th overall. But as we do have a little bit of a breather in the battle in, not that I think we're really going to have a proper breather in the battle in, as we do look to Lewis Homewood Racing's Jelmer Bergsma. And well, the Dutchman here looking to go 3 wide with Pete Piver and Ashley Shucksmith, and in the end he goes round the outside. Pete Piver there backed off, and I don't think he expected that Bergsma wasn't going to back off, and the LS Racing 1 driver definitely feeling that moment as being wild. James Haworth now goes on the attack as he makes his way through turn 5, and with 154 dry here, of course, trying to make haste and hay, given he was caught up in that open lap instant, albeit he was one of the many instants, we should say. And well, he's going to go up the inside there. Pete Piver does not fight it too hard. Difference of classes, to be fair to them, and Piver deciding, you know what, it's not worth it. Off you go, James, get out my way, go annoy some of the other club drivers up the road for me and bring them to me instead. And that's smart driving there for Piver and also from Haworth. They both know what they're doing. They're both established veterans of the grid. I do believe James Haworth has been on the grid now for the best part of 2.5 years, unless I'm mistaken. Pete Piver relatively the same, if not a bit longer, and right now they are both used to the fashion. And remember, there is no expectation that a driver of a class such as club has to give way to a driver of the Premier class that win GT3 machines. In theory, they can all go as quick as each other. It's just the fact you only really want to be battling for points with your class rivals, as Eduardo Endino jumps at the inside there of Jack Giles, literally jumps his way into turn number 9, goes over the bump in the road, takes 2 wheels off the road for a brief moment, and well, I think Giles there saw it coming but didn't expect it to be that quickly launched. And Eduardo Endino making a daring move there, as I think Giles is going to be going to the pit lane. He's done the short stint, and the game plan here is that you make sure not to go beyond the yellow line, otherwise he would pick up a entry penalty. It'll be an unsafe pit entry. He decides, right, I've done the short stint, I've got now to come in, I'll get the repair done. They get one fast repair in the pit lane as per the normal rules and regulations, and he'll get that car repaired. He'll put himself out of sequence of everyone else, and he'll buy himself some clear track to get on the move. As meanwhile, we see Ashley Shucksmith holding off Pete Piver for now, but Piver definitely not out of this yet, as that Ferrari tries to pick up some speed. Then you can see the McLaren now accelerated into 5th gear, and then suddenly they reach the chicane, and that's where he falls behind. Matthew Massey as well, he had that big moment right at the start of the race. The Spectrum Racing driver in 37th, still chasing after Peter Armstrong, making some more progress as Ellen Olsen trying to go around the outside of Danny Weir. It's the inside, and it's inside to outside here, and in the end, the club driver will clear the Premier driver of Olsen. The Dutchman going all in for it, and well, good try from them. Meanwhile, as we look back to Robin Aston, he should have been able to clear Petr Florian, as we do see Florian meanwhile behind him. And the Czechia driver just following on suit at the moment, but understandably for Florian, he'll be hoping that there's a bit more of an opportunity later on. But meanwhile, as we come back to the front of the field, new fastest lap from this race, and that is Menno Bloom, setting a 1 minute 43.42. She's been 1 minute 43.91. That's half a second almost being stripped out there by Menno Bloom. And well, perhaps now trying to get the hammer down and looking at building a gap so he gives himself more strategic options or safety. Remember, the undercut and the overcut are a thing, also fuel saving, and just shortening your stationary time is also a big prospect. And also, given the way the pit entry is here, being the quickest into the pit can be a very potent factor. It's a long time you spend in the pit lane end to end, and you want to spend only the bare minimum you can in there, because you are at risk of losing places. But speaking of places being made or lost, here's Daniel Mellor under a bit of pressure. on James Fraser, or is it putting pressure on James Bostock? No, in fact, he's the one putting pressure on James Bostock here, we should say. There's Fraser in the rear of the picture for context, and Mellor looking at the inside. This will be for premier position. Doesn't work. James Bostock gets his elbows out and simply says to him, nope, you're not coming through. And the GPX Sims for Onyx driver right now digging in, getting his shovel out and digging in a bit of a trench. And that defensive line there held up right now versus the Porsche driver, who's going to have to look for a way to beat that McLaren on the brakes. Bostock back once again. A McLaren machine for GPX SimSport. GPX do love their McLarens and their Porsches. They do seem to know these cars like the back of their hand. But it's in that McLaren. Well, keeping Mellor at bay for now. And of course, has raced as part of the team with Mellor in the past, but for this season, they're part of two different teams, so it's a bit more of a rivalry between them. And as they come down the back straight, well, we see Daniel Mellor getting closer once again. A much better exit out of tow. And well, here goes the 5M Racing driver. He sees the doors open, sends it up the inside. Has Bostock got a response? He has, and that is to go around the outside here. Mellor's a little bit too high on the curve. That settles the car when he could have got the power down if not. And Bostock will hold that position. Great defensive driving. Oh, goodness me, that's Stuart Rice rejoining literally the last moment onto the racing line there. He's had a bit of a sideways excursion. And here comes Michael Rhodes looking at the inside. So Rhodes will try and take that place off him. Remember, Rhodes started in second place in club. He's made his way back up through the field. He is really charged as the Darkwing Racing Ferrari driver in this 206. And right now, we'll have to wait and see where he comes out a bit later on. But Bostock and Mellor still fighting then as they go into lap number 10 into 90 right. Mellor on the inside, Bostock on the outside. But it's going to work out the way that Mellor thinks because yes, he's got ahead. Bostock seems to want to let that go. I think James Bostock here has got another game plan, which is stay in the draft and just simply pick up the speed as we do see him there heading into 6th gear shortly. And as he does so, upshifted at the best part of 150 miles an hour or so. Well, now heading towards 160 miles an hour here in the draft, getting closer and closer and closer. 2 tenths becomes 1.5 tenths, but then it's onto the brakes, and Daniel Mellor seems to have got this set as Bostock much more aggressive there coming in towards the chicane compared to Mellor. That's the difference to set up. That Porsche is not come to be set up for curves. Bostock, meanwhile, the team at GPX SimSport have decided to gain their speed through the bus stop chicane as much as possible. Looks one way, looks the other. And tries to go for the triple feint there from inside to outside, back to inside, but runs out of road before he could do it. And well, if he'd been a little bit quicker on the gun, he may have thrown it all in. But do you want to go for a move like that early on? That's the question. And well, only James Bostock can give you the answer to that one when it comes to his race. But Mellor does seem to start to pull away a little quicker through toe bend every time. They gains a tenth or two. But we do see James Fraser now queuing up behind, as along with Michael Rhodes and Stuart Rice. And they'll be looking at the two Premier drivers and thinking, can you guys potentially sort this out or let us through? But meanwhile, as we see a change position, James Haworth has got ahead of Gianluca Rospo. They're now following after Yoma Bergsma as they make the way up towards turn number 8. And as they do, ladies and gentlemen, we take a look back at some of the big moments of this race since the start, as we do go back in time to the race start. So this was how we got underway, and as we did, well, we looked to the front of the field and all the drivers went green, and it was Menno Blom, of course, who took them to the green for the 90 minutes of racing. Green flag was dropped there, season officially underway, and the points definitely on the table, and everyone safely away for the opening few quarters. But of course, there was a bit of difficulty for James Haworth to start up this race, and what exactly happened to him? He was, of course, in that 3 wide at the start, and was made his way up into the S's. He had cleared the 3 wide, he was ahead. He had John Treen behind him, and I think... oh, goodness me. Couldn't quite tell you what happened there from that camera angle, but the car let go. Treen tapped on the back afterwards, so a bit of reactionary moment. Now, can we get a potential alternative angle there for what happened to James Haworth? I think we can. I think we might be getting on the onboard from Treen's car if we can nail ourselves to it. I think we will be able to. So this was Treen making his way onwards. A great start there, and to be fair, a lot of space for Treen to work with as he made his way away. Haworth, they're a bit slow on the apex to be expected given the angle he was at, and they powered their way onwards. Now, let's listen in. And the car of Haworth just letting go there. I think that tight line, he had no grip on that rear left tyre, and when he tried to go full throttle through there, the front tyres could not maintain the grip level over the front axle. But we also have this Eduardo Andino. Now I believe, oh, there's a Porsche going around just in front. Couldn't quite see who it was. What we can tell is the fact that Andino there having to come to a halt. Some other drivers going a bit barreling into the incident. I think that might have been Peter Armstrong there who didn't quite get the memo of what had happened. And what had happened before, that is the question. Well, the answer to that is we try to look a little bit further ahead. Can we get to Ellen Olsen's car, I believe? From the count moment. There was Ollie Smith getting it wrong, so in the end it let go, but we need to see what happened in front, and that's the problem. Do we see it from Govin Suresh's perspective? He was closer to it, so this may help us get a bit more of a picture. I think Ellen Olsen also got caught up in it. So Olsen was clear of whatever had happened, so we know that Olsen was not caught up. but we don't know who else is caught up in it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the only problem. And, well, we take a look back at what happened to Govind Suresh. And this was Suresh making his way up the hill, and as he did so, the Champs Motorsport driver, well, he was on the brakes there, and we don't get to quite see what happened. What we do see is the way Ricardo Ollie Smith saying hello to Suresh's back end, and unfortunately not a happy collision between the two of them. So we can't quite get a replay of what happened, but what we can do is take a look at what exactly happened to Michael Lecco a little bit later on the lap. Well, there he was actually turned around, so Lecco had it all go a bit wrong. But there were incidents a bit later on, from what I'm gathering, and well, we did have a bit of difficulty for Christopher Petty as well. And this was Petty towards the end of lap 1, as he made his way onwards, and as he did so in towards turn number 8. What went wrong here? Oh, he was tapped on the back, and well, there's a follow-up there with the Marlboro McLaren, but he was tapped on the back there by one of the SimRacing team at Lowlands BMWs. I suspect, in terms of the car, that might have been Mark De Vries. Don't quote me on that, to be fair, ladies and gentlemen. I could be wrong. Sometimes I am. I think nobody's 100% right. But then we did have a bit of difficulty for Matthew Massey. And what exactly happened to Matthew Massey is the big question. And we are going to get an answer to that as we do take a look back at his adventure on lap number 1, I believe. And this was Matthew Massey coming out of turn 8 in towards 9. The Spectre Racing driver made his way up the hill. We found him off stage left. What exactly sent him there? Oh, it was a switch back there from the magenta Dexterous Motorsports McLaren. And that was Barry Wenman there trying to go for the switch to the inside and unfortunately missed timing it for the braking zone. And Massey being propelled out there. He won't be too pleased about that in the heat of the moment, but I think he'll look back at it afterwards, see what's being attempted, and I think he'll still probably go to the stewards, but at least he'll understand the context as to why he was sent all the way around. A bit of a rough one there. Then on lap number 2 we had this for Robin Aston as they made their way up through the S's. So the S's claimed a few victims earlier on, and the 5M Racing driver, oh, he drifted to the side there of Jordan Butler's Spectre Racing Mercedes. The car went sliding along, and I think this is where Ellen Olsen comes into the picture. She put the brakes on, and unfortunately being clipped on the rear there by a car coming in, and I think Olsen just trying to do their best to make sure they didn't get caught up, and unfortunately another driver came to the scene of the incident and did not have the time to react. What does it look like from Petr Florian's perspective? Well, this was Florian making his way onwards. I think he got caught up in it as well. So he was chasing after the Great Mass Motorsport Aston Martins at the time, and then came into the incident here and had backed off, heard the yellow flag call. Oh, goodness me, but did not know there was a McLaren there. I think he thought there's only one car, and unfortunately at that point rolled backwards, and at that point you are a passenger in the car. No matter how much you hear the words in your ears, hold your brakes. There's nothing stopping you from going barreling like that. But with that, we come to lap number 3, and towards the end of these replays, Martin Brandon a bit of a lonely spot. I think he'd been caught up in the instance earlier on, and as he made his way through turn 1, the rear of the car letting go. It's a bit difficulty for him there. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's back to your live racing we go. And we do come back, of course, because we've been in replay mode for a bit of time, and we'll thank you all about the driver there for clarifying what happened to Olsen in terms of when they were involved in the incident. And, well, I should have asked Ellen this, to be fair, but all about the driver, I do want to ask, is it okay to refer to Ellen by what is female pronouns, or are they a they, a them? I'd just like to double check there, because I'm not 100% certain. That's why I'm trying to avoid using the wrong pronouns at the time. Either way, it's respectful, of course, to everyone's gender identity, ladies and gentlemen. But as we do see our drivers making their way onwards, well, we do look to Paul Mayer, who's picked up a black flag. And well, the LS Racing 2 driver makes his way into the pit lane. And as he does so, that is going to be a drive-through penalty. That will be for instant points, I suspect. So from out that, it's not going to be a very happy story. And unfortunately, that is going to be a long trip down pit road. And no work can be done on the car, sadly, in that instance, as we all make our way up to lap 14. As we do. Bergsma here, holding off James Haworth for the time being. Haworth still trying to fight his way forward. He's eagerly watching and waiting, but the Lewis Homewood Racing driver right now is going to have to find a bit of an invention if he wants to get this done. Well, as they make their way on through, I have both of these drivers here right now pushing on hard, have had two very different stories. Bergsma, of course, making up a load of ground early on. Haworth trying to retake all the ground he lost afterwards his excursion at turn 2 on the open lap. And Haworth will take that place just like that, click of the fingers, and now onwards and in towards turn number 5. But as they do, we look to Andy Chell, who's all over the back of James Fraser, and behind them they've got Rob Mackay, who's pushing them on. So it's going to be a battle of the club class drivers here, and this being for 4th place in club. And well, with Simon Hunt having a bit of difficulty earlier on with a big slide loose. And in fact, he has come into the pit lane for his first pit stop quite early. He came in lap 12, so Hunt's decided to get that pit stop out the way. And well, Andy Chell there, not quite able to clear James Fraser. In fact, in the end being cleared by Rob Mackay instead. A great fight between them, and Chell right now definitely is full of enthusiasm and vigour here today. And are we for it? Yes, we are. But as we do look to John Ludbrook, as he makes his way through 90 right, he has Mark De Vries with close company behind him, and Vries right now to try to put some pressure on the man who's made some steady progress thus far. But as they make their way up the hill, Ross Wheatley a little bit further behind. He'd like to be a part of this. He is lapping as quick as these drivers right now in Premier. There's still a bit more to be done. But a big question mark on this race. What's happened to Salcuni? Well, Mikhail Salcuni has come into the pit lane from the lead of the club class, so that explains the story there, and Salcuni has come in way back on what was lap number 11 to take his first pit stop. So he's decided to get that out of the way nice and early. As drivers make their way around. Meanwhile, the GP3 Xenon driver on his way down the hill at turn number 6. Well, just keep themselves together at the time. But Joshua Downing, therefore, finds himself as your club leader at the moment, 12.5 seconds ahead of Stuart Wright. And right now, Downing, I think, pushing quite hard there as he goes quite deep into a shoot corner. To be fair, nails the exit. 10 out of 10 for that. The Type 2 racing driver knows that he's now in an offset strategy race versus Salcuni. He was keeping at an eye's distance, and now he needs to work a little bit harder if he wants to try and win this one. Started in 4th place in class, but made his way into lead, and now just got to keep going all the way to the end. It's a long journey to the finish line for all these drivers. They've still got just over an hour. But looking further down the order, of course, more pits are playing out. We do have Robin Aston on the back of Ellen Olsen, and Petr Florian is behind. And as the trio make their way through, we look back from the rear of Olsen's car here, and Olsen to the inside, and in fact, Olsen letting those places go, as that's going to be Robin Aston making the way through. And I think the reason Olsen's let that go, and well, unfortunately being caught out slightly, that is Eddie Theobald at the head of the trio there, and Eddie Theobald has essentially put a lap on both drivers. I think Olsen respecting the blue flag, and well, in the process, Robin Aston being a little bit cheeky there and taking a place under what was Olsen being quite polite. But sometimes it's the way drivers go. And well, I want to correct what I said earlier on about what was a SimRacing Team Lowlands car tapping the driver on the back here at this corner tonight. I think it was actually Eddie Theobald involved in that instant. They've both got very similar front ends on the paint schemes. But you notice Eddie Theobald in his car, they do not have the SimRacing Team Lowlands logo towards the rear of it. That's an obvious discerning factor. But also the fact you do have the all white behind what is the brown reddish front end, where SimRacing Team Lowlands have the blue back end on the car. But you can't see that from the front, of course, and that's why they do look a little bit similar. So apologies for the confusion from those replays earlier on. Drivers make their way down the start finish straight. So now having to do a little bit of chase there for Valence TV Racing, but they've got to keep their head in the game here. They can't think that it's all over yet. And well, we have seen drivers come from very far back in these endurance races to pull off magical results. And whilst we're expecting sunny conditions all day today, to be fair, it only takes one driver to spill on the circuit, and suddenly, well, their race is over, and who do they take with them potentially, particularly in the thick of a battle? And that is why you never give up until the end, because you can be surprised what can happen all the way to the finish. John Lebret finds himself still ahead of Mark De Vries. De Vries following closely, but right now no seeming change between them. Ross Wheatley a little bit further back. Well, he's approaching the back of none other than what is going Suresh. Suresh right now in that McLaren, having already pitted. Suresh taking his pit stop right at the start, of course, involved in the open lap incident for the Dexterous Motorsport team, that being through the S's sequence. Not the way he wanted it to start, and he's just trying to keep his head down at the moment as the lead lap has gone to lap 17. But as we see them all standing together at the moment, behind Ross Wheatley is Barry Wenman, and then you do have that 3.5 second gap to Joshua Downing. But where the battle is going to be quiet between them, well, there's no silence in this battle, as we do ride on board the rear of Dave Collier's DC Motorsport 116 Ferrari. Now coming up the hill here, battle between himself and the Marlboro McLaren of Connor Pink. And well, as they make the way on towards turn number 4, and then the long stretch. Well, understandably right now, that is looking very quick, that McLaren in a straight line in the draft as well. Well, as he looks to the inside here, will Collier fight this hard, or will he let it go? And under braking, he lets it go there, and Connor Pink makes a decisive move on the inside. That'll be up into 9th place in Premier. Something tells me that Dave Collier right now is playing the bigger picture game. And the full process will be, don't need to fight right now, just simply take your time, and well, you'll win this one of strategy. Remember, there is the fault. Will the one stop be a viable strategy here? Fuel consumption at Watkins Glen is normally quite aggressive, because you do spend a lot of the lap on the throttle. It's the best part of around about 75% of the lap you're accelerating, so it can be quite expensive on fuel, although it's not quite in the region of, say, Le Mans, for example, as a circuit, which we'll go to later on this season, where you're definitely spending pretty much 90% of the lap on the throttle. But right now, for Dave Collier, definitely I think from that bigger picture, as Connor Pink just wants to keep moving up. He's also got some movement here. Michael Rhodes, he finds himself on the back of Stuart Rice. This is for second place on the road in club class, but strategically it could be for third. As we do say hello to Mark Kent 94 in the YouTube chat there, and good evening to you, Mark. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you tuning in. And well, as Michael Rhodes continues to chase, Stuart Rice is his target at the moment. The Dublin racing driver still got more places to retake. Remember, he started second in class. He was caught up early on, had a bit of a difficult start, but right now it's not about how he starts today, it's about how he ends it. He's demonstrating that very happily. New fastest lap in club, Joshua Downing there, setting a, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that is a 43.689. Quite the lap there from Joshua Downing when you consider that Stuart Rice is lapping in the mid-44s. Michael Rhodes also lapping in the mid-44s at the moment. So therefore, Downing really turning up the wick, and that will be to beat the already pitted Mikhail Salcuni. Now, speaking of Salcuni, here he is. He's in a bit of clear track down in 13th place in the club class. All that translates to overall is 33rd. His nearest car is Hussein Sarkadesla, who is in 32nd at the moment. And well, he's on the back of Eduardo Andino and Peter Armstrong as they all chase after Martin Kenyon's Acura. See Peter Armstrong there, making his way on through. Peter, of course, in a Ferrari that definitely picked up some damage towards the start, but it has been repaired. Indeed, a lot of these cars are cars that have been repaired as a result of opening lap shenanigans on the first couple of laps. Well, you can see Peter Armstrong looking for a move here on the inside as they head down towards 90 right. Is he going to go for it? Yes, the force is strong in this one as he goes onto the brakes of Go Squadron Motorsport. Gets on the inside, but he overcooks it a bit too much. And unfortunately there, as he now brings that overtake back onto the road, he's going to find he's lost not just the place he tried to gain, but he's also lost the place to Hussein Sarkadesla. And that's going to come down to 32nd place. And well, suddenly, what was looking to be an adventurous move won't feel as good a one anymore, as Petr Florian is behind there, a lap down, but he's watching this and probably thinking to himself, I kind of need to unlap this trio because they are a bit slower than me. But Florian will have to take his time in doing so. That's the thing, you can unlap yourself, but the problem is, when you unlap yourself, you normally have around half to a full lap to be able to open up a gap, or at least show you are going to open up a gap. If you can't do that, then suddenly the blue flags will be coming back at you very quickly. As meanwhile, that is a big look up the inside there from Sarkadesla ahead of Andino, and he does get the move done, but here comes Peter Armstrong now looking up the inside, the LS Racing number 2, and as he makes his way through and toe bend, I thought Armstrong was going to go all in for that there. I thought he was going to probably strong arm it, but not quite. And Eduardo Andino holding his ground for 11th in club at the moment, but goodness me, is he feeling the pressure right now. And well, Armstrong's got the enthusiasm, he's just got to get it right on the brakes to make a move. And Paul Mayer at the inside there of Ashley Shucksmith, the LS Racing 2 team, definitely right now holding the ground and fighting forward. But look who's over the back of this, Eddie Theobald, he looks up the inside of Shucksmith in towards the right hand of turn 11. But Theobald there, tight on the exit, that's not going to help him with power as he roars his way on down, and we jump on board here. Fighting for overall position only, but the biggest significance is he wants to get clear of Shucksmith to attack Mayer, dies at the inside to 90 right, goes in, there's going to be a small touch there, carrying a lot of speed into the corner to be fair, but did back it off enough, so Shucksmith was not pushed off the road, he was pushed up onto the curve. That is within track limits, so you put all 4 wheels on that curve. So long as you don't go beyond it with any wheels, you are okay. And as they make the way through, it's not NASCAR track limits here today, and they make the way onwards towards the bus stop chicane. Well, Theobald on the inside for it, Shucksmith on the outside. Behind them is the 5M racing car, Robin Aston, trying to unlap himself with Ellen Olsen in tow. And in the end, Eddie Theobald will finally take that 26th place there. But goodness me, has he had to work for it? He's still got a lot more work to do, given the number of places he wants to make up before this one is done. Now, along the way so far, we have lost a few drivers in this race, including none other than what I do believe is Matthew Massey and John Treen. We've also lost Jordan Butler and Gavin Corby and Ollie Smith. We have also seen a non-start for Ross Gillupt, as he has unfortunately lost out due to connectivity issues, and we'll hopefully see Gillupt back on the grid as a round number 2. As all these drivers make their way through, we do look to James Fraser. Right now, past the pit lane entry, Daniel Miller's in, and well, James Fraser still holding to 4th in club in the meantime as he gains another overall position. But where will the strategy be then? Because we said earlier on, it's a 1-stop or a 2-stop race. We've seen a lot of drivers coming in for early pit stops. There is a thought perhaps to try and turn this into a bit of a symmetrical race where you pit on 30 minutes every time, so that way you do make it 3 equal pit stops. But of course, the aim of the game in these GT3s, a lot of the pros will tell you always want to run them with the least amount of fuel. The idea being the lighter the car, the quicker the car you have. That's not easy when you've got to put a whole fuel tank of fuel in to get to the end of the race. The full process is essentially you want to run the car for as long as possible, because the fastest laps are found at the end of the stint, and then you rinse and repeat for the second stint, and you repeat for the third stint. By making that third stint so short, it's really just a time trial session at that point. As Andy Chell here is definitely trying to find the right time to pass James Fraser. We look back from the rear of the MLC Bootleggers car. And Chell looking at the inside. You can see a lot more confidence in that Aston Martin to go on the inside, to go into spaces that Fraser's not expecting to go for. Fraser in the end just taking his natural racing line. The Porsche, of course, the king of the corners, because rear engine, rear drive in terms of its drivetrain, all the weight over that rear axle. You drive the Porsche with the throttle, not with the steering wheel. The steering wheel is a secondary accessory. If you can drive it on the throttle, you are 90% of the way there to mastering the arse of the Porsche, because that rear end slides around, and if you can get comfortable with it, you can get very quick with it as well. Went the hill in towards turn at number 9 now. Well, Fraser definitely feeling confident in his abilities, but I think his pace right now is taking a bit of a confidence test, as Andy Chell is definitely putting it to the test. Up the road, Stuart Rice, is he coming into the pit lane? Looks like he is. As Rice comes in for what is second place in the Roding Club, third strategically, we believe, and Michael Rhodes goes on. So Rhodes is back to where he started now in club, albeit he has got to still take his pit stops, or pit stop if he's going for the one-stop strategy. But Rhodes has now made his way all the way upwards. He'll be happy about that. The team will be very pleased with Michael's performance. But now, what does he do from here? Keeping in mind, of course, he's had to make up for lost time, so he's probably had to use more fuel on the way, and he's also probably had to heat the tyres up a bit more and use them a bit more excessively. Well, the field is starting to spread out. That's to be expected over the course of an endurance race. We have now got discernible gaps between all of our drivers. Although Ross Wheatley would like to try and prove otherwise, as Barry Wenman has got still within 6/10 of him. And Wenman close, but not close enough to look for a move at the moment, as the Magenta car definitely has had a bit of a rough start to this race. But it's not about how you start, it's about how you end. That's what the Dexterous Motorsport Magenta driver is showing alongside his team. Look up the front of window. Stuart Rice still being serviced there. Long pit stop for him at the moment. And in fact, as we do look to his car up on jacks there. And this is the new pit stop regulations in full force. This is currently a 50-second stop it's heading towards, as I do believe Dave Collier taking a 50-second stop. And that means that's a full tank of fuel going in that car, and most likely all 4 tyres going in. Remember, to change all 4 tyres is approximately 21 to 23 seconds on these cars. And you would imagine the fuel that we put in the car, it'll be somewhere in the region of around 18 to 20 seconds worth of time to get that tank fully fueled up. So 50 seconds stationary is what we're looking at on average for the full pit stop. And well, Stuart Rice, fresh set of tyres. He's got to now burn them in, or run them in essentially. This is the hard part of the race, because you've now got your car essentially reset back to how it was right at the start. But the difference is now you've got everyone around you, and you've got to get a move on very quickly, because you're in a strategic race and you may be in a battle for track position like Rice is with Hughes here. Does he let it go to Hughes? The answer is going to be yes, he does. And the full process, I think, here from Rice, he lets the Welshman go, and the Team UKSR driver gets a move on. Gianluca Rospo right in the rear there of Stuart Rice, and well, the Premier driver I'm still looking for a bit of progress. And well, we haven't forgotten about you, Andrea Marchetti, cheering on Rospo, who says new hairstyle for Rospo. And indeed, that is a very slick hairstyle there. And goodness me, is he a model in real life? Because I can tell you one thing, if he's not a model, he may want to consider it. And well, I'll tell you one thing, he's got enough of a look there to make even the straightest of men swoon, I'd say, myself included, as he makes his way on through. But as he does so, the Italian driver right now absolutely flying high. And well, he makes his way onwards. Well, meanwhile, Danny Weir, well, he goes chasing after Michael Lecco. But as they do, these two, of course, both recipients of pit stops early on in the race due to damage. Lecco just ahead at the moment of Weir, and well, going up towards turn number 5. No change at the moment, and that's definitely, I think for them, this is a question of do they work together, or do they instead potentially try to be at odds with each other? Because they work together, they may gain some race time. Their next target is Eduardo Andino, is 8 seconds up the road, but Andino has taken his first strategic stop as we understand it. So what magic can they do to try and make that very early pit stop worth it? Well, change at the front of the field. Liam Fraser is into the pit as he makes his way on down pit road. He comes to his stall, and also into the pits, Dean Sheesby, his teammate from Moonshiners Racing Club. Clyde Vella goes another lap, and are we seeing GPX SimSport Zenon's 105 McLaren trying to go for the one-stop here? We are almost in one-stop territory for Vella. If he can pull off another 5 minutes out there, which is going to be 3 laps worth of time approximately, he will be onto the one-stop, and that could suddenly gain him a huge amount of time. But of course, when he comes in for that pit stop, is he going to just take fuel, or does he do fuel and tyres? Surely he'd have to do tyres in order to be able to make sure he's got the best possible car. But if he does go for fuel, we'll gain a huge amount of time in the pit lane, but at what cost? Hold up, there's a black flag for Rob Mackay, and we believe that is for speeding into the pit lane, or unsafe pit entry as it's known. If so, that is going to be a stop and hold, and then the car can be worked on most likely. So Mackay right now. Won't be too impressed about that. As Mark De Vries, the man who is pushing onwards, well, he's trying to make up some more time alongside his teammate Menno Blom. He and Blom for SimRacing Team Loans are both pitted, and right now he finds himself caught up behind the lap down car of none other than what is, I believe, that is Eduardo Andino, as Andino gives them all the space. They're going into the S's, and even more. So much so, in fact, you would have thought he's going to the barrier. To make the way onwards. Mark De Vries now up into 6th place at the moment, but this is a race that is definitely turning for strategy. James Bostock, Barry Wenman and Clive Vella still coming in, but I wouldn't be surprised if we are seeing one-stop attempts here from a few drivers. That's going to be where it all comes down to, as meanwhile Peter Armstrong is into the pits. Might look at my Conte booth. He's had a bit difficult to get into the pit lane from what I hear. Rob Mackay still sat there in the pit lane, now having his car worked on. He has had a stop and hold for an unsafe pit entry, and what a painful penalty that one. But we come back to Mikhail Salkuni. So what's the game plan here for Verano East? Well, they brought him in on lap number 11 from the lead of the club race. So he's likely on a 2-stop strategy. Has this mega undercut work there to get the splash and dash in straight at the start and then go on? Well, it was a 20-second stop, so Saint tells me that's purely a fuel stop that's been done in order to top up the fuel tank and then get him to probably around what will be 30 minutes remaining and then to come in again. Well, for Salkuni, I think this is working. The only problem is, and James Fraser is ahead at the moment. In fact, Fraser is 5 seconds ahead. Actually, if I do the mathematics, with James Fraser coming on lap 21, this hasn't worked out for Salkuni at all. He's lost out to Fraser. Simon Hunt's also been in, and Hunt's been in with an 18-second stop. So Salkuni coming in that early, this has actually gone completely against them. And Joshua Downing has been into the pits. He was in on lap 22, and he's back out in the lead of the club class. So Salkuni's actually lost this on the road so far, but again, we're waiting to see whether there's more pit stops in this, as James Bostock is now in. So Bostock goes the grand total of 23 laps where he makes his way onto pit road. It looks like right now, as we do show your class standings at the moment, and there you can see in club, Downing, Shucksmith, Hunt, Fraser and Salkuni's that top 5. Salkuni has lost out, but there might be some method in the madness of Verano Esports, and so I have to wait and see what that method is going to be. Meanwhile, Clive Villa carries on. In fact, we show you the number of pit stops that drivers have served on your time and tower within our classes at the moment. And well, there you go. You've only got 2 drivers right now within the top 20 of both classes who have yet to take what is their first strategic pit stop, unless they've been in previously for damage on the car, and we can't discern that from the number on your screen. Clive Villa, who has just literally, as I say that, and that is Peter Armstrong going very sideways out of the inner loop chicane. There's Clive Vella making his way down pit road, so he couldn't quite go the full 45 minutes. But we'll have to wait and see what he can do here, because this will be about a minute and a half in the pit lane if it's a full pit stop, which we suspect it is, with tyres and fuel, and therefore that would take him to pretty much 46 minutes remaining in this race, and then he'd have to see if he can go the distance. But remember, he may have to do an extra lap on top of what he predicts, depending on which way the race goes in terms of the final lap time. As we do see Dean Sheesby then, he will take the lead of this race for now, will Sheesby, and will new lead then ahead of Menno Blom. Here is Menno Blom a bit further back, Blom sitting in the best part of 7 seconds behind, but he did have a pit stop that was double the length of Sheesby. So the SimRacing Team Lowlands driver may have changed a tyre or two, where Sheesby, I think, has just literally put the fuel in, and the team has said go, go, go once again with that 16-second stop. Whereas Blom, 29.45 seconds, that's at least a tyre being changed, if not 2 tyres most likely being changed. So I suspect that'll be the left-hand side tyres being changed on that car, because the left will take the bigger wear than the right, and you always change the side. You never change an axle in a GT3 car. Changing an axle, you suddenly completely imbalance the mechanical grip of the car, whereas if you change a side, you get a much more gradual grip transition from left-hand side to right-hand side, because of course through right-hand corners you've got more pressure on the left-hand side tyres to grip up, and through left-hand corners you've got more pressure on the right-hand side tyres. Whereas an axle, meanwhile, suddenly you're going to have one side of the car have a lot of grip at the front, or alternatively not a lot of grip, and the opposite end of the car will have the difference. And that is very uncomfortable to drive. That's what leads to very quick snap spins. But as we do have a yellow flag for Clive Vella, that will be for track limits. That's a slowdown penalty at the bus stop chicane. So he's going to give up some time with Mark De Vries right behind him right now. And what did Vella do in the pit lane? 31 seconds, that's fuel and 2 tyres. So Vella has come in, he hasn't gone for a full pit stop, but he has gone for probably the best in between, and that won't be enough. I suspect there will be a small splash and dash for the 105 driver. We'll have to wait and see what it will be, that splash and dash. If so, I suspect it'll probably be about 10 seconds in the pit lane at most in terms of the stationary time, as Mark De Vries now chases him. And well, the driver who was looking to try and make his way onto the podium, well, he's now got to try and carve his way past Clive Vella first, and there'll be more to go as we do almost reach the halfway point of this race. What a race it has been so far, no doubt about it. We return to your overall standings, and there is your class leader in club. But look who's right behind him. That is Simon Hunt, and Hunt has really closed up to Joshua Downing over the last couple of laps. In fact, last lap, Simon Hunt almost took a whole second out of Downing. So right now, I think Downing is finding himself caught up behind Connor Pink, and perhaps trying to save some fuel here to give himself a bigger pit window for that second stop if it's needed. Simon Hunt, meanwhile, after what was a relatively short stop, just putting fuel in the car on lap 11. The IMSA SportsCar driver, I think he has confirmed himself as a definite two-stopper. But right now, well, it's not going to stop him from going attacking either way as we ride on board. Martin Kenyon, meanwhile, he's just behind this pairing. And I'll tell you one thing, Martin, under the radar, has jumped all the way up to 10th place and 34th. He has taken one of his strategic pit stops on lap 10, which was 16 seconds. Again, we suspect that puts him on a two-stop strategy, but Kenyon in his Acura will come to him very short. He is flying out there. And to be on the back of the top 10 already, that is an achievement given where he started. But Simon Hunt right now, following down him, but quite far back. And looks as though they're, in fact, just taking it nice and easy through the corners. It's starting to head towards the rev limiter there as Alan Olsen steps aside. And, well, Simon Hunt right now makes way through. Joshua Downing there does not have a good run into the chicane whatsoever. That looked terrible there for Downing, and that's not me belittling him. That looked like a car that did not want to turn in at all there. What's wrong with the Type 2 racing McLaren at the moment? And that looked like the whole front end just simply washed out northwards. And meanwhile, Simon Hunt on the inside. Hunt goes for it here. Downing's got a problem. That's not normal for Joshua Downing. He lets Hunt go. The only thing I'm thinking now is he trying to get himself back together here to attack Hunt. He is going to try and go for it, but Joshua Downing giving up a position. I thought I'd never see the day that would happen, and Simon Hunt into lead of the club class right now. But Downing's going to try and come back at him here, and well, in doing so, well, the only other thing could be our Type 2 Racing thinking, given the fact they will have visibility of all the data that we have here in the commentary booth. It is readily available. It's on a public access API server. Well, they can tell the pit stop times of the drivers, and so they might have looked at Simon Hunt and gone, Josh, let Hunt take the lead, follow him and save fuel. He will be pitting again. We may be able to stop having to go for a second pit stop given how recently you pitted. And if so, it's a gamble here, giving up track position, but there might be some logic in it. But something tells me if Type 2 racer doing that, well, Downing as well has got to get himself composed, because that bust up chicane on that lap, that was not what we wanted to see. A huge waft of understeer on that front left tyre, and well, that McLaren did not want to turn in at all. Coming on to their next lap then. Meanwhile, further down the order, here's Christopher Petty, chasing after Rob Mackay in the meantime. And, well, the MRC bootleggers driver. Well, I'd like to go with the thought process here. Bootlegging normally referred to, of course, what is moonshiners. And, indeed, that's where the team name comes from. The era, of course, of moonshine, or what is illegal alcohol, being run by bootleggers across county lines in the United States of America. But there's also the phrase, of course, bootlegging, referring in the more modern parlance to what is knockoff derivatives or copies of things that are unofficial. And, well, I wonder if the MLC bootleggers team will decide to bootleg the livery, the McDonald's livery of a similarly livered car of Ashley Shucksmith behind. I'm sure it's a pure coincidence they're running near identical liveries, but wouldn't it be funny if that was the thought process, that they bootlegged it off of Ashley, and there is the privateer McDonald's car in the meantime making its way through. But as he does so right now, well, he's definitely not having a whopper of a time, because it should be a Big Mac on that car as he makes his way down the starting straight here. He wants to get a few more places to do so. Into the pit lane off camera, we do have Danny Weir and Petr Florian. They both come in for what is a second stop, and this will be their first proper strategic stop, given the damage on their cars in the opening laps. So that does bring them back out. And in the meantime, the last year runners at the moment, let's not forget about him, running in 46th place. You could see him staying out there. The privateer, it's none other than Josh Holmes. He makes his way onwards. And well, the 221 driver right now, keeping his head down and just pushing on. As meanwhile, Michael Lecco finding Petr Florian there with him. These two have swapped places. And well, it does look as though Lecco getting ahead, and Florian just playing the game of smart. In terms of some big moments that we've had more recently, as Martin Brandon comes into the pit lane, well, let's come back to a man who we said we would talk about a little bit earlier on, and that's Martin Kenyon. There he is in the Acura, being followed by Ellen Olsen, who's a lap down behind, but the Dexterous Motorsport Magenta driver is really making a lot of headway here as he makes way through turn number one, and that Acura seems to be gelling very well with him. I know he did say to me at the end of Season 18 of the GT3 Championship hosted on Sundays by UK Sim Racing that he was planning to change to a different car to give himself a bigger challenge, and well, he's definitely picked the most challenging car on the GT3 grid, I can tell you that. There's a reason why he's the only one here in Split B running it. And well, right now he's definitely running it very well as he heads in towards the bus stop. And as he comes on through, let's come to a bit of battling on the road. Andy Rooney, the other member of Valenti V Racing, right now trying to chase after Christopher Petty. Petty, meanwhile, there you can see him still chasing after Rob Mackay. So we'll see bootlegger's driver. 9, there's a bit more to be done. And well, he wants to make sure he doesn't get caught by Andy Rooney whatsoever. Rooney may have other ideas. Meanwhile, we look back to Jelmer Bergsma. And he comes out of turn number 11. And making his way down the start-finish straight. Good run off the quarter here. This has surely got an opportunity to overtake Ashley Shucksmith. But overall position only, 32nd. And we'll go up the inside there. And Shucksmith in the end does not offer any resistance. No, and that was going to go one of two ways. Either they'd fight all the way up the hill, or alternatively no battle whatsoever. And well, it's going to go what is the latter rather than the former. As he now chases after Eddie Fearbolt, only a second up the road. And Shucksmith will be hoping to be pulled along. As we do say hello to Yasmin Costa. 3:30 gives a love heart there. And we'll get into Yasmin. Hope you're doing well. Enjoying the broadcast thus far. As meanwhile, we do see Bergsma and Shucksmith in the end settling the differences. And Bergsma right now definitely getting ahead. But things are changing up front. As meanwhile, Mark De Vries and Liam Fraser are having a bit of a look at each other. Liam Fraser gets a much better run out of turn 1. I think De Vries had to back off. He's gone very deep into the corner. And De Vries now follows. We ride on board the dashboard camera here, which is hanging over the dashboard, we should say, of Mark De Vries' 151. And that's a change for Liam Fraser. Positive 1 there. And De Vries right now has got a bit more work to do. And we're coming in towards the chicane at the moment. Well, you can see there, both drivers don't want to touch that curb whatsoever. That curb has been remodelled on the entry in towards the bus stop quite recently. It is now a much more dangerous chicane curb compared to what it used to be, where we used to be able to jump over essentially, whereas now, much like the real world run, of course, being relayed for 2026, we have seen the format of it being turned into a much more aggressive sausage curb. That's what the red part of it is, and the whole idea behind that, of course, is essentially to cause the suspension to over-travel, and it's to dissuade drivers from wanting to cut the curb and run so close to the wall. But what does happen normally is that teams will try to set up the car to run as close or as much as possible onto that sausage curb, but the more you do it, the more dangerous it becomes, and well, it can come with a price if you get it wrong. That's Mark De Vries chases after Liam Fraser. Fraser pulling away here. That Ford Mustang, the grip on that rear axle coming out the corners, he's just able to get the power down. Right now, Liam Fraser working hard, but again, difference of strategy here. We know that Mark De Vries opting to go for a shorter pit stop compared to Liam Fraser, who is on much fresher tyres. Fraser went all in. De Vries did not in his ascendancy. Well, Liam Fraser right now on a fresh set of tyres will definitely be the driver who is very keen to make his way forward. But out of all your leaders, can we show you the pit times? I think we can show you the pit times, ladies and gentlemen. And here they come up on the timing tower. Well, what you'll notice there is you've got a mixture. You've got some pit stops which are sub 20 seconds, or around about 20 to 23 seconds. Those are pit stops which have not had any tyres changed. So, Dean Sheesby is a really good example. He's come in and just simply put fuel in the car. Meanwhile, if you do look to drivers like Liam Fraser with a 50-second stop, that is fuel and all 4 tyres being changed there, because fuel is done before the tyres, as we mentioned earlier on, and the tyres do approximately take 5 seconds per tyre once the car's up on the jack. So you add it all together, you're looking at about 23 seconds for tyres, then the fuel, you're looking at around about 27 seconds at most. Also remember, they've got to get the fuel gun off the car and onto the car, so that adds a bit more time. And then you've got the likes of Joshua Downing here chasing after Simon Hunt, who have pitted for around about anywhere between 25 to 35 seconds. As we do see Martin Kenyon cutting up the inside there. Downing sees him coming and lets him go. And their drivers who put fuel in and most likely have changed 1 to 2 tyres there. Tyres on a single side. Downing's definitely changed only 2 tyres, and that will be on the left-hand side of the car. And the whole full process there being going for the interim to get some extra grip on the right-handers, which are more punishing here compared to left-hand corners. As we do see, what is there? A lap being put onto the car of Eduardo Andino. Here's Porsche. So he'll drop down there and Joshua Downing just playing it safe. It's interesting to see the mix in pit stop times here. And well, one driver had a very short pit stop, only 12 seconds. Jack Giles. He's only been in once, that was on lap number 7, but that has enabled him to get back up into 21st place so far, and he'll be hoping that a very short pit stop and some fast repair work to the car will help him out. As meanwhile, Adam Waters fighting with Stuart Wright, so the fighting all begins once again here. As right now, Adam Waters definitely running his Ayrton Senna tribute livery helmet on the car. Well, right now, coming down towards turn number 6, or turn number 7 I should say, and as they do, right now going as defensive as possible. Stuart Wright again on the attack. And coming out the corner right now, the battle of the 2 V8s, but it's an naturally aspirated Corvette versus what is the twin turbo supplemented Mercedes engine in the Aston Martin. And in the end, it's going to be the Rice machine that goes up the inside. Does he get it done? The answer is yes. The Blue Square Esports driver does make his progress. Steve Hughes now gets onto the back of this and wants to play a role in it. The Premier driver would like to clear these club drivers if he can. And well, if he can do so, go chasing after Dave Collier, who's 12 seconds up the road. But that's an easier story said than done. And right now, I think Hughes here is going to really wait his turn to Now to make a way in. As meanwhile, Jack Giles into the pits he comes. And oh, goodness me, he's gone beyond the yellow line. That could be a black flag there for Jack Giles. And we'll have to wait and see. It is done based on the amount of time you spend beyond the line. So, well, it does look as though for Giles right now, as he comes in, we'll have to see where he gets a black flag on exit, because that's normally when it will be assigned to the driver. Stuart Rice, meanwhile, makes his way onwards then. Adam Waters with him, defuse there. And all these drivers pushing on. And, well, what we are hearing down in the pit lane, and we are seeing in the YouTube chat there for more about the gyro, is that it's been a bit of a gamble and strategy for Ellen Olsen for Valena TV Racing, given how much time that Ellen has lost in her incident earlier on. Well, we are seeing the Valena TV Racing driver has decided only to take fuel in the pit lane, and they're deciding to fuel the car, run with the tyres that it started on, and go all the way to the end. And well, for Ellen, if she can pull this off, this could gain her quite a few places back, because a lot of drivers will come into the pits and will most likely be changing some tyres. But meanwhile, in the rear of the picture, a lap ahead, but only a couple of quarters behind. That's Eddie Theobald battling with Hussein Sarkadesla as they make the way on through. And who got the upper hand there? Well, it's still Theobald defending versus Sarkadesla, as we see Andy Rooney and Jelmer Bergsma behind. Almost now with this race complete now, and the fighting is not stopping whatsoever, and we are starting to see these little pockets battling, and that's all the entertainment is really blurring up. Meanwhile, Liam Fraser versus Clyde Vella here, too wide they come in towards the bus stop. Fraser on the inside, Vella on the outside, both drivers yet to pit, and Liam Fraser makes that place. But Fraser is on the freshest tyres of everybody inside that top 10 right now. Indeed, the only other driver who's had a 50-second stop is, I believe, or close to 50-second stop, inside the top 15 is John Ludbrook, who then have to go back down to what would be both Dave Collier and Stuart Rice for those pit stops. So, is there a bit of a game plan in the madness? We will see. As meanwhile, we do also see what is Andy Chell and Michael Rhodes together. Chell having a much shorter pit stop, got ahead of Rhodes through the pit lane, but now Rhodes is coming back at him here, and this will be for fourth place in the club class. Here they go in towards turn number, it's not turn number 4, indeed it's just a name, it's the chicane, as they come on through here. No corner numbers here, this is all about just mastering this little set of kinks. Well, they make the way now in towards the official turn number 5 of the outer loop, and Chell holding his ground, and now he needs to defend here. He needs to hurt Michael Rhodes' strategy. He can't let Rhodes get past him, because if Rhodes does, he goes to the inside, and it's a tap to Chell's rear left quarter, and that sends Chell to the barrier, and well, Rhodes is always going to go for it, but I think there Andy will be arguing, well, there's no space for him to go for it, and unfortunately for Chell, that car with that knock to the barrier, I think that has dropped the rear right suspension, and in fact, he is struggling to get that car around, but if he can get it to the pit lane, it'll be better than towing it. Towing it to the pit lane will cost him a huge amount of time, given he'll be at one of the furthest points away from the pit lane. That's how tow time has worked out, placing a distance to the pit. And for Chell right now, definitely not a happy moment there. Rhodes has got past with some damage to the car, and St. tells me that that will go to the steward, and this is what happened. And there's an alternative camera angle here, and Rhodes in looking for the move, looked from the outside to the inside, saw the door was open there, but I think going into the space was always going to close, and well, to be fair, I don't think any malice was meant, and I think he was hoping that perhaps Chell would keep the steering open there, thinking the two of them were on different strategies, but in the heat of the moment, Rhodes finding out that Chell didn't want to play ball, and well, that's how they came together as we do return to your live racing. As they make the way on through. Also some ground being made from other drivers as Chell does make it to the pit lane, which is great to see, so he won't lose anywhere near as much time as he would have if he had to tow, so that's always a bonus. But Simon Hunt leading in club at the moment. Josh Downing 1.1 seconds behind, but we believe that Downing, of course, is fuel saving here. And, of course, Simon Hunt is still on his original tyres. Downing has changed 2 tyres, so that's the difference, and that's how Hunt has been able to make up the best part of what was a grand total of 13 seconds on strategy. But then again, if there is going to be another pit stop, well, there'll be a quick smash and dash most likely, but Hunt's tyres will definitely feel very old. Sheesby is into the pits in the lead of this race, so Menno Blom retakes the lead, and as he does so, the SimRacing Team Lowlands driver, who had double the pit length time and took fuel and 2 tyres, Sheesby right now in, but what's it going to be this time? Is it just fuel again? The answer, we'll find out, ladies and gents, not after this commercial break, but we'd have to keep looking at his car for the best part of 15 seconds to see if it goes up on the jacks. We're not going to do that. We're going to wait for the effective pit time to come through, and then we'll have a good grasp of what's potentially happening. As Simon Hunt comes into the pits as well, so that short first stop, in fact, gives way now to Joshua Downing, who will retake the lead of the club class, but is going to work out for Downing as he makes way through the camera shot. Dean Sheesby still parked up there. That's fuel going into the car. That's purely fuel. That car did not come down to the jacks there as we pan to the end of the pit stop. So the MLC Rebels driver here may just literally be using the same set of tyres. And well, we know with these GT3 tyre compounds, they can go an hour and a half comfortably if you manage them. And we're making the way onwards. We'll have to be, will be Dean Sheesby right now. Really have to pull off a bit of a miracle here versus Menno Blyme, but miracles do happen. And remember, all he needs to do now is keep himself out of trouble to the end of the race. Mikhail Salkuni in as well. So, taking the Sheesby strategy here. But how does he get back into this one, knowing he's lost out versus Downing early on? And also Michael Rhodes has the effect he got ahead of him on the road now. Well, it's going to be a bit of a gamble there. But Adam Waters battling side by side with Steve Hughes in the meantime. Hughes on the left of your picture, Waters on the right. And the Team Nubish driver there being passed in that fight. But now, will we see Waters come back at him going up the hill? Flat out we go with 30 minutes left on the clock. And the crazy thing now, this race is already passed. But time flies when you're having fun, they say. And definitely we're having a lot of fun here in the commentary booth covering this race. It's been an absolutely brilliant race so far. And this endurance race really keeping the options open. But Waters on the inside here. And well, Hughes is going to try and hold it all the way outside to inside. Waters inside to outside. And Waters will get that done there. Hughes does not try to crank it too much for the simple reason that they just cost each other a huge amount of time. It's Pete Piver makes his way around the outside of Simon Hunt, who's just left the pit lane. So Hunt's back out there now in 9th place in club, 29th overall. And that was a 50-second stop there for the Quatermass Motorsport driver. To be precise, 48.27 seconds. But the point being, that's 4 tyres being changed and that's fuel to go to the end. So Hunt has decided he now needs the fresh compound. He's not going to try and survive on that tyre. And well, it'll be interesting to see where he comes out in relation to Downing. Of course, went for 2 tyres early on. And there is no mandatory pit stop requirement in this race, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be 100% clear about that to you. No mandatory pit stops at all. They are expected to take fuel. They don't have the fuel tanks to do the full hour and a half or even the hour races. But changing tyres entirely at the decision of the driver. And that's why it makes it such interesting racing, because of the fact strategy becomes just as vital as what's happening on track. Speaking of which, Rob Mackay right now trying to leave Eddie Theobald and Christopher Petty to their own desires. As Theobald going around the outside there, Petty moving into 23rd place. We're definitely now into another pit stop window once again. And we have had an update from down the pit lane from all about the gyro regarding Ellen Olsen, saying that they can make it on fuel in the car as the Fidelity Racing driver is slowly making her way up through the field, to be fair. And well, they've deployed a major fuel save strategy similar to how Dwayne Hoffman won at Watkins Glen last season in the GT Championship, of course, in club in season 2. That incredible win at Watkins Glen. And well, one of those wins that will be in the Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. And Ellen Olsen right now don't necessarily has the ability we do not think necessarily has the ability to win in the Premier Class here today at Watkins Glen, but definitely can win back some more points, given the fact that she's going to be chasing after likes of Robin Aston and Paul Mayer to the end. And there's plenty of other drivers in the Premier Class who have yet to take that second pit stop, should they be planning to make one. Let's wait and see which way it goes for her, as she rather quickly tries to follow on what is the machinery there as Gianluca Rospo. In fact, trying to potentially show a sign, which is, I may be a bit faster than you, would you mind letting me go? Rospo right now a Premier driver as well, but he's a lap up, and the Deep Motorsport driver will have to make a call here, where it's actually necessary to keep Olsen behind, or where he thinks as though it's actually better to let her go. But only he can make that decision, unless, of course, Olsen wants to be a little bit firm. But meanwhile, we do see Rob Mackay being caught up to here by Eddie Theobald. Theobald is going on the attack. And we're right now looking for what will be around about 17th place in Premier. Minus Christopher Petty, just watch it on here. He's got the popcorn seat view to this battle as the club driver, but it's the 2 Premier drivers here who we're keen to see which way it goes. They've been fighting for quite a bit of the race. And Rob Mackay, of course, had that unsafe pit entry. He was caught out speeding into the pit lane, and it did cost him the best part of an extra 30 seconds at least in the pits, which is not what he wanted whatsoever. Right now, getting a bit too close there, Theobald, and coming out of turn number 9 into coming out of turn 8 into 9. Right now, you can see there Mackay just holding his line whatsoever, and well, a little bit of twitch down the front end from Theobald. And that's not the way you want it to go. That BMW can be twitchy on its front axle. We do know it is very aggressive over the rear end, and that translates into what is a very understeer into oversteer car. It swaps very quickly on the front end. And well, right now that's holding Theobald back a little bit as Adam Waters into the pit lane. So he takes what will be his final pit stop of the day, and he'll fall back behind this group. But up front, Menno Blyme leads. He makes his way onto lap 37. And for Blyme, still has a second stop potentially on the cards. The driver that everyone will be looking at to wonder if there's a second pit stop Clyde Vella, we know he went the best part of 44 minutes before, in fact it was 43.5 minutes before his pit stop. So therefore for Vella right now, the GPX SimSport Xenon driver did take a rather shorter pit stop than what we'd expected, a 31-second stop. So we think that Clyde may have one more pit stop to do, but it will be quite a quick one when he does it. And we expect that pit stop is going to be with about 15 minutes remaining. But as the drivers head on, meanwhile, we do come back to Mackay versus Gianluca Rospo looking up the inside there in the McLaren driver. So they've had a bit of a change. And, well, it looks though there, Rospo losing out a little bit. In fact, that last lap, Rospo did lose 2 seconds worth of time. And Ellen Olsen, I think, finding her way past Rospo. And that's perhaps cost him a bit of time. In turn, that's Eddie Theobald through as well. So Gianluca Rospo losing out. Rospo is on his original tyres, as we understand it. And well, those tyres will definitely be feeling the age here, as I think he is trying to fuel save this one. And trying to gain some places back. As up the inside goes Christopher Petty. Petty side by side there. And is Rospo going to fight it up the hill? When they go here into his turn line, he lets it go. Next driver, Andy Rooney, the other Felinity V racing car, the 202. Now trying to get its head down and go chasing after Christopher Petty for 5th place in club. Petty's just about 1.1 seconds up the road. It's just a problem having the Deep Motorsport McLaren between him and his target, as both of them are coming into the pit lane, it would seem, although Rooney there literally hypnotised by the back end of the Deep Motorsport McLaren, and in the end making sure not to make contact to it as they both make the way in for their second and final pit stop. So, solid drive so far from Andy Rooney. We're hearing more about the driver there in the YouTube chat. No problems with the car. I'm very pleased, and we could be on course here for a top 5 in club if it all works out. But back to Robin Aston we go, chasing after Paul Mayer. And as they make the way down towards the bus-stop chicane, looking for a potential move. That's not going to work from there, says Paul Mayer, and just jumps across the 5M Racing 125. Aston there definitely trying to intimidate and frustrate. Didn't work out. Peter Armstrong, meanwhile, well, he's had definitely an up and down the round race to go Squadron Motorsport. And the last time we saw Peter racing was back in the UK SimRacing GT3 Championship. But here he goes, looking around the outside here versus Danny Weir. And this is going to be the 17th place in club. He can pull this off. Some points on the line. Into that braking zone they go. 2 wide they enter. 2 wide all the way through. And Armstrong in the end did not want to back out. And he gets that done. And here comes Michael Lecco on the back of it. That was brave. It was bold. It was absolutely brilliant there from Peter Armstrong. And meanwhile, Danny Weir now runs wide a little bit. So it's going to be Lecco now looking for a move in turn. Well, I can tell you one thing, Armstrong, he may be down towards the rear of the field. Yes, he's had a couple of spins, but his enthusiasm has not been dampened whatsoever. As Danny Weir goes a bit too wide there, bounces well off the exit curb, and somehow that push is still going there. Well, that was rallycross, if I've ever seen it at Watkins Glen, and the 255 driver right now still hold off Michael Lecco. I think Lecco's thinking at this point, what does it take to get Weir out the way? And well, the answer is you need to make a move on him. You can't expect him to give up the place for you, no matter how wide he goes. And we're coming to the window, Michael Rhodes into the pit lane, but it's relatively quiet in the pits. We are just seeing the occasional car coming at the moment. I think we are going to see a mass exodus to the pit lane. Probably within the next 5 to 10 minutes, you'll see a lot of drivers coming for a final splash and dash. I think all the fuel tanks right now are getting low. And it's the question, is anybody on a one-stop here? Is it effective, the one-stop? Well, it's a big gauge, of course, of the race time you lose for fuel saving versus what you gain in the pit lane. We're coming back up to the lead lap. John Ludbrook and James Haworth together. And right now the GPX SimSport Xenon driver feeling a bit of heat behind him as Barry Wenman's into the pit lane. And will sister team driver to James Haworth's Dexterous Motorsport Cyan Mustang, being part of the Magenta crew. And his McLaren is Wenman, but let's stay focused on Haworth on the road. And looking over the front of the 154. Well, right now, Haworth attacking as much as he can, but John Ludbrook proving to be a little bit of a firm customer as they head left into right. The flame spit there from the back of the McLaren in front. Haworth comes up to the inside. Is it to come into the pit? It is. So Haworth decides, I'm not making progress here. It's time to come in. Let's go for the undercut versus Ludbrook. So Ludbrook holds on the road, and now he's got the overcut to work with here. So does he react on the next lap? Or does he simply stay out until he comes into his designated point in time? I'm sure the GPX SimSport team will be on the radio to John to ask him what he wants to do. But right now, if I know John Ludbrook well, he'll probably stay out there for as long as he can. He won't feel too pressured into responding. As he makes way on, meanwhile, we do look to none other than Menno Blom, race leader at the moment. Dean Sheesby, of course, has taken his second pit stop. It was a 28-second stop. We believe Sheesby doing that to take purely what was fuel. Although, Saying that, to be fair, if it was fuel, it would have been a shorter stop. So perhaps Sheesby did change a tyre or two, as that's a car around in the rear. Michael Rhodes having to be very careful and just about avoiding the car of Jelmer Bergsma, who'd gone very sideways. And, well, that looked to be a big near-miss moment there for several drivers. Bergsma has got himself back up to speed, thank goodness. And the Dutchman there, of course, were a very scary moment. Easy to make a mistake like that through turn number 9. And here's a quick replay to show you what happened. And we like to refer to these the slow motion spin, because he made his way into the corner, coming through with that left-hander, over the road surface transition he went, and the rear of the car started to let go, and at that point your rear passenger held his brakes and did a brilliant job there of then getting the car righted and back in the right direction within only 3 seconds. So Bergsman there, 10 out of 10 for car control on that one, and we'll kept it together and made sure not to collect anyone in the process. But back to Mackay. He's got Eddie Theobald and Christopher Petty for close company once again. So he's dropped them, and now they're back with him after what was his first pit stop, of course. And, well, Eddie Theobald there, 2 pit stops in now. Theobald definitely looking to be on a bit of an adventure from behind. So Mackay is going to lose some places should he come back in. And, well, 20 minutes still to go. There's still plenty in this one to guess and gesticulate at in terms of what will happen next. But meanwhile, Mark De Vries into the pit lane. So the SimRacing team Lowland's number 2 driver here today comes in. Bloom still stays out. So split the strategies there for STL. Well, split strategies for several teams' drivers. As we look to none other than James Bostock, as Ross Wheatley for company behind him. And Wheatley is on fresh tyres, whereas Bostock is on 2 changed tyres. So Wheatley on a full set of 4. And attacking Bostock quite furiously here in the battle of the McLarens. We know that Bostock's quite quick at defending. Ross Wheatley has got a lot of speed in that DC Motorsport McLaren on the straights right now. He's one of the quickest cars out there in terms of top end speed today. And will make his way through the Bostock chicane. Has to back off. But right now, definitely thinking about that move. Wants to clear Bostock. I think he feels though his race is trapped right now behind the GPX SimSport McLaren. And it'll be unlocked if he can get on through, because 5 seconds up the road will be John Ludbrook. And then it'll be Dean Sheesby. Remember, Sheesby has already pitted twice, so therefore, in theory, Sheesby's in a bit of a different strategic race right now. But more pit stops playing out as I look out my Conte booth window. Into pits to Steve Hughes and Christopher Petty. And, well, Simon Hunt, meanwhile, he's behind Andy Chell after all of this. Well, that's a change there. And Simon Hunt has lost out a little bit over the course of the race distance. But it does seem as though there, with the time he's potentially lost out, has he been involved in the incident? He was involved in a bit of an off-track moment back on lap number 19, but that was a long time ago. But beyond that, I think it's just the way the race has evolved here, whereas Chell hadn't pitted the lap before Hunt. Well, they both come out together, but now they are really at the mercy of waiting for a lot of club drivers to come into the pits. So what would be that second stop if they're doing one? And that's the thing now. You've committed to the strategy. You've made your 2 pit stops. And at this point, you can't second-guess yourself. You've got to think, yep, I've done the right thing. It is going to work out until I see that checkered flag. As Hussein Sakadesla makes his way in towards turn number 6, side by side here with Michael Rhodes. Up the inside he goes there, and about the 2 Ferraris, it's the Premier Ferrari getting ahead of the Club Ferrari. It's GP on its Turkish driver, ahead now of the Briton of Rhodes as he makes his way on behind. Daniel Mellows into the pit lane. And Rudjul asking there, wait, didn't she survive turn 3? And he did survive turn 3 right at the start of the race. And your eyes do not deceive you. And right now, Sheesby is looking a potential candidate for the win here, subject to the strategy that Menno Blum and Liam Fraser are deploying. James Bostock under pressure again. Wheatley this time, looking to the inside. Not close enough there. Bostock too far ahead for a potential move. Bostock right now definitely just keeping his head down. But again, we are waiting to see who will peel off for that one last pit stop. If anybody will do so, or whether this is going to a one-stop race right now. As Menno Blum gives us an idea of what's coming. He comes into the pits from the lead of the race. Premier and overall, Blum in. And, well, Liam Fraser, meanwhile, is on turns 10 into 11 right now. Does he come in as well for MLC Bootleggers? We'll have to wait and see there as he goes a bit wide. And in the end, he does get into the pit lane. And we'll literally right on the limit there. What's legal in terms of coming into the pits? Clive Vella, meanwhile, goes on. And Clive Vella is the big question mark. Is he going for the one stop here? We're not certain that he is. We believe he's on a 2-stop, but it is a very short final stint of a 2-stop for Clyde Vella, given the fact he did go 24 laps for his first pit stop, and he was the only driver to do so, go the 24 lap distance, excluding Ashley Shucksmith. He was the other one who did it. So right now, could be Clyde Vella's race here if this works out, but it all comes down to pit length time as Menno Blum has already left the pit lane. It's a splash and dash of fuel and he's come back out. Meanwhile, Liam Fraser, he's emerged here. He comes back in 7th place, so Menno Blum has made up a lot of time along the way, and Blum right now, well, given the fact he's only believe the best part of 17 seconds behind Clyde Vella. I think this is in fact Menno Bloom's race now to lose on pit time. We'll have to wait and see as we say hello to Marco Pitaluga in the YouTube chat. And well, let's come back to none other than Gianluca Rospo, who's right behind there in a bit of a lonely 30th place right now, 18th in Premier. Still a bit of work to do as we have had Martin Kenyon toast the pit lane quite recently. And Kenyon's accurate, unfortunately not looking in a good state in the pit lane. But how did it get to that state? Here's a quick replay to explain. Oh, goodness me, and that was coming in towards turn number 6 there. Kenyon was already on his journey and well reacted to there by everybody who came through the scene of the incident. But how did he get there in the first place is the question, and I believe we are going to get the answer. So this was coming out of turn 5, down towards turn number 6 he went, and as he did so, onto the brakes, came down the gearbox and the rear of the car started to let go, and at that point a big wham to the rear of the car, and in the end, well, some very quick reactions there from the drivers coming up behind, and everyone safely on through there, and Kenyon in the car that was rolling, no doubt about it. But as he then towed to the pit lane, we did have what was a bit difficulty for Jelmer Bergsma, but we're not going to catch that because we've got more pit stops playing out, ladies and gentlemen, and one of them, which we've just noticed, that Stuart Rice has now done his second stop. He's come up behind Pete Piver, who you just saw go through the camera up the road. And right now, Stuart Rice is the best part of what is in relation to Mikhail Salcuni, who has now taken his second stop. Well, Salcuni's got ahead. Salcuni looks safe. Joshua Downing in full place. Well, and Downing is the leading club driver who has yet to pit. It looks like Stuart Rice here is in a battle for third place, potentially with Michael Rhodes, although Rhodes has pitted. So in fact, Rice right now is looking to seal the deal for fourth place here today in club. We've just got to stay ahead of Christoph Petty, who is 14 seconds behind, but I think he'll be safe there. Into the pits comes Dave Collier, as we do say hello to CTIL34, also known as Craig Tillotson, part of the Verano Esports team. Good evening to you, Craig. I hope you're doing well. Meanwhile, in terms of drivers doing well out there, I can tell you one thing, it does look as though Mikhail Salcuni, all the doubts we had about him, going for that huge undercut at the start from the lead of the club class, we don't think this is going to win him the racing club. We think he will still be behind Downing once Downing's taking his pit stop. But Salcuni here is going to do a brilliant job essentially taking himself on an offset strategy to guarantee himself a podium, most likely second place. But again, that is our prediction. We could be wrong because when we look at your class standings at the moment, we can see Salcuni is a minute behind Downing, and given that Salcuni's second stop was fuel and we believe perhaps one tyre, that was 56 seconds end to end. He would right now need to be around 50 seconds behind Downing to feel confident he might be able to make the jump. But if Downing just takes fuel in the pit lane, he's only looking at a grand total of around about what will be, I would say, 45 seconds at most in the pit. So Salcuni right now, definitely on the back foot here. He's got to close that gap down. Alan Olsen follows behind there, a lap down. And Olsen, meanwhile, running 23rd in Premier, but the Flynn TV racing driver still doing a very solid job of making the strategy of just taking fuel work to try and make amends for what happened at the start. But coming from our Premier drivers, back to your club Correctness Motorsport machines with Hunt and Gel. Well, they make the way up through turns 2, 3 and 4 right now. And what we can see there is that Andy Rooney is 5 seconds behind, and Andy Rooney is under some pressure from Adam Waters. They've both come into the pits their final time today. Rooney having started from the pit lane for Valena TV Racing, whereas Adam Waters starts in the grid. And Rooney right now getting the pressure here as they fight over 10th place on the Roding Club. Now Waters potentially looking around the outside. That's not going to work. Rooney comes across and covers him off there. Well, as they bounce their way up through the bus stop chicane, you see Rooney just a little bit more aggressive to the opening curve, whereas Waters a bit more cautious by comparison. As we have had Pete Piver towed to the pit lane, meatball flag to the car, so that doesn't sound too good. And Piver, who was doing well, in fact, there's a race and has dropped a long way down the order now. Let's try and get a replay of that when we can. Rooney holding his ground at the moment, as it's a bit of a slow run there from Adam Waters, but I think he's worried about the fact that he does have Dean Sheesby behind him, and Sheesby very keen to get through as Waters immediately steps aside there. Well, Waters literally runs it right on the edge of the circuit, going for a slingshot off the toe bend. He couldn't have done that any better, could Waters? That was absolutely smooth, and Dean Sheesby will be grateful for that. But as we do see them making their way apart, we'll take a look at what exactly happens to Pete Piver's car to make it come apart. So I think this is going to be a similar instance to Martin Kenyon. Turn 5 into 6, into the braking zone for shoot. And as he made his way into the corner, the rear of the car, let's go. It is almost a complete perfect match for the instant for Martin Kenyon. The only difference is Pete Piver's car staying pretty much towards the outside of the circuit. Kenyon's meanwhile rolling forward at that point, and Piver coming in a little bit slower to the barrier and at less of an angle, and the Brazilian driver unfortunately having to tow to the pit lane with the damage. So Piper's race does seem to be over at least for now, but he will be back out there after the tow, and if he's got a faster pair available, otherwise it may be over with only 11.5 minutes to go. And we come back to your live racing then, and as we do, Ross Wheatley now into the pit lane as James Bostock blitzes wound past our static camera on the exit of the final corner. He's now up into 7th place. Remember, he's still got a pit stop to go. A lot of drivers have. And let's show you the number of pit stops that drivers have made on the time tail graphics. That way you can stay up to date with strategy. And all those on 1 stop. The big question is, are they going to 2? And everyone is on the 2 stop right now, looking to try and get to the end of the race based on the current status of their car. Menno Blome, of course, the leading 2-stopper, or the one who's converted on 2 stops, in 2nd place, and seems to be very much set for trying to take this win. And look to Joshua Downing. And Downing has gradually closed up to Menno Blome, intriguingly, but remember, Blome has taken the pit stop, whereas Downing has not. The point being right now that Downing definitely pushing very hard here. Well, that is giving him that gap to Mikhail Salcuni. That's over a minute now. It's about 1 minute and 2 seconds. Should keep him well safe for taking his final pit stop when he does make it. In terms of battles out there, not too many at the moment to really talk about that are close together. This race, of course, has seen some distance put into it now, as that's going one way then the other for Rob Mackay. And Mackay in the end does the jitterbug on the exit curve of turn 1. And then it was going left, it was going right, but in the end he got it pointed on the straight and narrow. And Eddie Theobald there sneaking his way on through, and for Rob Mackay, that was a very quick snatch of the car there. If he'd not been able to get that under control, that could have gone spinning around in towards turn number 2. And I wouldn't want to imagine how everyone else would have had to have dealt with that one. But Mackay in the end getting under control, and immediately goes hunting now after Eddie Theobald once again. Indeed, Rob, a driver out there, to be fair, a very talented driver and showing you his talents there. When it goes wrong, he can very quickly get it right as he makes his way out of turn at number 5. He's been in this race long back and forth with Eddie Theobald, and well, the two of them have been enjoying an absolutely brilliant scrap, albeit keeping in mind, of course, that Theobald pitted on lap 24 to Mackay pitted on lap 22, but Mackay did have what was that stop and hold penalty in the pit lane, where he was forced to wait the best part of 30 seconds because he had sped into pit lane. So his race was put backwards, or as I would suspect, he would have been inside the top 10 of Premier here today. So Mackay will definitely learn from that one going into a future round. On pit stops, Joshua Downing into the pit lane and already make his way out of it. Where is Mikhail Salcuni? There's the blimp camera seeing Downing make his way out of the pit. Salcuni's only just about to make his way in towards turn number 10. How about that? Joshua Downing right now. A quick fuel stop. He's on his way. As he does so, we come back down to the closer cameras. Let's Connor Pink go past him in the Marlboro McLaren. And Joshua Downing right now, this race in club is his to lose at this point. He's absolutely nailed this. All he's got to do is survive for another 9 minutes and a final lap. I say the word survive, of course, because in endurance racing, you have to outlast the race. None more so at the 24 Hour of Le Mans. Here today, even so, we've seen some drivers be able to outlast some difficulties. Andy Rooney, meanwhile, he's making some more progress. He is on a free stop strategy because he started from the pit lane this race. He didn't start on the grid. I do believe there was a slight issue in the McLaren when they went to the grid, so they decided to start him from the pit lane and therefore approximately 10 seconds behind the field. But of course, he did have plenty of visibility of what happened through the S's, as we have a disqualification flag for what is none other than Paul Mayer, and that is the first of the season. That is for 26 instant points, we believe. So Mayer is out of this race, sadly, and that's very unfortunate there. It's rare it happens, but when it does, well, of course, it's always going to draw a bit of a headline there, as meanwhile, really letting what is Dean Sheesby on past him and hoping that Sheesby now will repay the favour and be a bit of a nuisance to the man that really wants the battle of Shucksmith. But to get the feeling right now, given where Sheesby has captured him, it may be a bit of wishful thinking if we ride on board with the 202. As he makes his way out the hill, 8 minutes still on the clock, we take a sip of water here, and indeed, right now I can imagine our drivers may be feeling a bit thirsty behind those wheels. But what we see between now and the end, as Rooney tucks back in, Shucksmith there, as we predicted, letting Sheesby go on the long stretch. So that really neutralises any opportunity that Rooney could gain through Sheesby putting a lap on the pair of them. And as they make their way through on the outer loop then, Shucksmith there, very wide out the corner. Rooney very good on exit, and that positions himself to the outside. This will be for a switchback most likely. Indeed, there he goes, cuts it in nice and early, but in the end, as he cuts it down, doesn't quite get the traction he wants there. Turned a bit too early and didn't have the confidence in the car. But Rooney right now is trying to go for these constant V cutbacks here. The idea is he can try and get on the front one. If he times it right, he will really get a huge drive off the corner. And there it goes. Rooney picking up a mammoth run out of toe corner. Here he looks up the inside, and the Florian TV Racing drivers going to have to do one thing thing now, and that is win on the brakes. Comes across there versus Shuck Smith, covers off the position. Shuck Smith tried to squeeze as much as possible, but Rooney there with the best part of around 4 miles an hour in advantage by the time they got into that braking zone. Well, he made that stick, and what a lovely move there from the 202 driver, and that is all that switchbacks through those curved bends and showing you what you can do at Watkins Glen here in a battle. Now, Clyde Vella does come into the pits with 6.5 minutes left to go. He confirms that he cannot get to the end on what is a single stop. Menno Blown then retakes the lead this race, and with an advantage in the region of quite a sensational gap at the moment over what is Dean Sheesby. He'll be feeling very safe all the way towards the very end, as we have seen the final pit stops now play out. So we hide the pit stop graphic on the timing tower, and everyone has come into the pits, we believe now, for the final required time. But it's Bloom who leads by 10.7 seconds ahead of Dean Sheesby, and then Clyde Vella and Liam Fraser together. But Vella has leapt into third here as a result of a short stop. 9 seconds at the fuel gun, and right now there's Liam Fraser right with him. 2 wide here in the battle for third. Fraser has got the fresher car technically, but Clyde Vella right now has made his way forward as a strategy, and that always gives him a mental boost, because now he knows he's got to use all the tyre he's got in order to try to attack. But it does look as though Liam Fraser getting that place back just as they got themselves up to speed. Vella, of course, trying to find some new tyre temperature. You do lose it, even with a short pit stop where you don't change tyres. You always lose some heat in the tyre. And Liam Fraser right now, having spent a bit more time in his tyres, he has already made his second pit stop on lap 41 compared to Vella's lap 47 only months ago. Well, Liam Fraser right now is in the car that's in the better trim, at least for this lap. But Vella may be able to come back at him on the next few laps, depending on how well he's holding up on his original tyres, as we believe he's running. Come down the back stretch. Well, meanwhile, Barry Wenman, 13.5 seconds behind, a bit of a lonely 5th place at the moment, with Mark DeVries 5 seconds behind and a 13-second gap to the top 4. Wenman's race has worked out quite well. He only started to the 11th in Premier Class. He's not too upset about that. He is running very happily inside that top 5 at the moment. Simon Hunt, he's chasing after Rob Mackay, as Mackay goes very wide out the final corner. Well, I think Simon right now, we're looking for a pass here sooner rather than later on the Premier driver. That won't be for points, it'll just be for overall position. Does he get it on the brakes here? The answer's going to be yes, he will. And Mackay does not really offer a defence on that. He'll probably look for the run back up towards the bus-stop chicane, and he's showing the rear of the picture. But it does seem as though Freighter Mass right now, they've lost out on the double top 5. They are 6th and 7th at this time, with Christopher Petty the best part of 3 seconds up the road. Can Hunt close down Petty in the late stages here, or is this the furthest they're going to go? We'll have to wait and see as they make the way on towards the chicane. And meanwhile, we look a little bit up the road to Steve Hughes, who finds he's got Eddie Fearbold for close company. And Eddie Fearbold hasn't given up fighting yet. He's made his third pit stop now. Looks up the inside here in towards Chute Bend. Steve Hughes stays the outside there, thinking he can potentially get the better run off the corner to go into the inside of toe. But Eddie Fearbold in the end just completely shatters his dreams like that. Lovely move there from the 100 BMW driver, now up into 15th place in class. Been in Premier and 9. There's still some more work to be done. Next target to Hussein Sarakadesla, albeit the gap to him will be 18 seconds at this point in time. But back up to corner pink we go. And he's on a bit of a scrap here with Joshua Downing. Flashes headlights to Petr Florian and trying to say to the Czechia driver, watch out, I'm coming through, as they make their way through the chicane. But do keep in mind, our blue flag rules are not Formula 1 rules. You don't just have to simply get out the way when a blue flag is waved at you. You're expected to hold your line and drive predictably for the lead lappers to overtake you, essentially. You're not allowed to fight. At the same time, you're not expected to lift and coast immediately out of the corner, although you're more than welcome to if that's the most efficient way you want to do things. Connor Pink there will be grateful to the Czechia driver, letting him go. As meanwhile, Joshua Downing right now wants another overall position. He's your club leader, the Type 2 racing driver here. I think we'll be very eager to gain one more place overall if we can and take that 7th place. It won't be a bad debut for the Type 2 racing driver to take what will be an overall top 10 as a club driver. And well, Mikhail Salkudi in the end. Oh, goodness me! Salkudi running wide there coming out to shoot corner. We just caught that. And well, the Rhino Esport driver, is that damage on the front right of the car? Surely not. This is not the way the Rhino Esport 228 driver wants to end this race. 3 minutes to go. A big significant knock to the front right of the car. And if he's got to go into the pits now, that will give up 2nd place to Michael Rhodes. I think Stuart Rice will be too far behind to potentially steal 3rd place off him. And in fact, Salkudi has got a black flag. And with that contact to the barrier, it's given him 2 instant points, and that's been enough to send him into the drive-through penalty territory. So that's really unfortunate for Sal Cuddy. We've also got black flags emerging for Andy Chell and also for Martin Brandon. And we haven't talked too much about Martin Brandon this race, but with that, we look to the Ferrari driver as well. Indeed, right now it does seem as though Ferrari and Aston Martin cars picking up those drive-through penalties, and well, they have to serve it when the 3 laps are being awarded. If they do not, they either get essentially disqualified from the race for not serving the drive-through penalty, or if they get to the finish before they've served it, it will be added as a post-race time penalty. But it will be the equivalent of going a full distance down the pit lane on the limiter. So they don't gain anything, but the full process is you're going to do it by staying out there if you can, because you don't lose tyre temperature. So in theory, you do regain a little bit of race time by not serving the drive-through penalty until you've crossed that finish line and take it as a post-race time penalty, which is possible, of course, given the fact we are towards the end of this race. We are on lap number 50, and right now Menno Blom is about to take us on to the final lap of the day. It is going to be at lap number 51 as the white flag waves, and Menno Blom right now 1 lap away from leading this race from pole to victory. Although he hasn't led every lap, to be fair, this will be no means a grand slam, but it'll definitely feel as though he's absolutely slammed this to the top of the podium, and well, he'll be very pleased about it. But he's got 1 more to go. Meanwhile, Dean Sheesby and Liam Fraser getting closer together here, with Clyde Vella only a second behind. Is Sheesby having to nurse a bit of a problem here, or running low on fuel? Well, if so, suddenly a 2-3 for Moonshiners. The Moonshiners Racing Club may not be theoretically possible. There is Clyde Vella behind, separated by Andy Rooney at the moment. Rooney still pushing on here, and indeed so is Clyde Vella, but Rooney will need to step aside if he sees those blue flags, which he's already pulling over there. Lets Clyde Vella go, does not want to interfere in this battle for the Premier podium. Understandable. But as we look to your overall finishing positions at the moment, or running positions we should say, well, are there any other battles out there? Well, the biggest battle in club at the moment may be between Christophe Petty and Simon Hunt towards the very end, but otherwise things have calmed down between them. As going on to their final lap, that's Ross Wheatley on the left, on the right, and that's James Bostock. Battle of the 2 McLarens. They've been fighting like this since the midpoint of the race, and Bostock trying to hold on. And behind them is James Haworth, who's found his way onto the back in 12th place, 11th in Premier, and he's going to try and fight a way through as Haworth on the inside here. The corner caught him out at the start. It's not going to catch you out this time as that V8 Mustang roars its round past. The 5 litres open up there of all American muscle and home soil, and he will clear Ross Wheatley just like that. And Wheatley's got no response in the draft. But meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, we must come back to your leader because he makes his way through the last 2 corners. Well, for the Sim Racing Team Lowlands 152, last season wasn't the best of ones, but if you're going to start a season off well, why not start it off with a win? Because Menno Blom is your winner here overall and in the Premier class of Split B at Watkins Glen. And then we do have to wait the best part of 12.5 seconds before we do see behind the Sim Racing Team Lowlands driver. He's going to hold on to it. It's going to be second place for Dean Sheesby for Moonshiners Racing Club Rebels ahead of the bootleggers of Liam Fraser. It's a 2-3 for MRC. Clyde Vella takes 4th on a very unique strategy, almost going the 1 stop, but in the end a very short second stop, really gaining him a lot of ground today. Barry Wenman will come on through to round of the top 5 and a huge effort, bringing himself from 16th to 5th place, and then we'll see Mark De Vries just behind it in 6th, ahead of Connor Pink, who will come up behind the Sim Racing Team Lowlands driver. And here he is on the privateer in the Marlboro McLaren. Well, to be fair, absolutely smoking on the strategy today, and he will be pleased with this one. But as he does come through, John LeBrook will take 8th place, and it'll be Joshua Downing, who is your club winner today for Type 2 racing. And what a drive from him. A brilliant effort there, and outsmarting and outrunning the field. James Bostock, James Haworth and Ross Wheatley, they come to line, and Bostock holds on for 9th place in Premier and 10th overall ahead of James Haworth and Ross Wheatley. And then it'll be Dave Collier coming on through shortly and take on home what will be 13th place. And well, the DC Motorsport driver on his return to the grid, a very solid effort today, a great foundation to work upon. Daniel Miller taking home 14th place. Michael Rhodes there takes home 2nd place in club. What a great recovery drive from the Darkwing Racer drive given out started. And then we'll see in Hussein Sarkadesta taking 16th place ahead of Mikhail Salkudi, the man who started on pole. And well, it's not gone the way he's wanted it to. A gamble on strategy with the short stop at the start did not work out for Rhino Esport, but it's a 3rd place at the podium, and Stuart Rice was only in the end 4 seconds behind, taking 4th place for Blue Sky Esports in club and 18th overall. Eddie Theobald and Steve Hughes will be your last finishers in the top 20, just ahead of Krista Petty and Simon Hunt. Of course, plenty of other drivers as well finishing a lap down or more, but we can only cover those who come through on the lead lap. And, well, Andy Rooney has survived on fuel from what we're hearing, with what was 0.3 litres of fuel remaining, which is a tiny amount for how much these cars guzzle. But as Dean Sheasby makes his way into the pit lane, as do many of our drivers, I think a lot of them stopping out on circuit due to a lack of fuel in the car. Well, let's take a look at those race results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. And well, what a race it's been today for our 90-minute endurance race opener here at Watkins Glen for the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship Season 13. And you've been tuning into Split B. And as we've seen, Menno Blom taking victory for SimRacing Team Lowlands by 12.7 seconds over MRC Rebels Dean Sheasby. And there's a double MRC overall podium with the bootleggers outfit of Liam Fraser's Mustang completing the podium. Clyde Vella was only 7/10 of a second behind in the end for GPX SimSport Xenon, and a great effort there. A huge gamble on strategy to extend the fuel tank an extra 3 laps compared to most of his rivals, and he made it work out, promoting himself to 4th, ahead of Barry Wenman, who completed the top 5 there for Dexterous Motorsport's Magenta. And after a bit of a slow start, in the end, finishing 31 seconds off the leader and 18 seconds off of the top 4. But to be fair to him, holding on by 1.6 seconds ahead of Mark de Vries for SimRacing Team Lowlands, who was caught out by Wenman. The BMW driver there from the Netherlands having to settle for 6th ahead of the McLaren quartet of Connor Pink, who had a bit of a quiet race, but to be fair, was not lonely at the end, being chased by John Lebrook to the finish for GPX SimSport Xenon. And then it was only a further 6 tenths behind that you found your club winner taking 9th place overall of Joshua Downing, and had the pace, had the strategy, had it all in one package today. He's at 9th ahead of James Bostock for GPX SimSport Onyx, who held on versus James Haworth to the line by hundredths, and the Dexterous Motorsport Cyan drive followed up by Ross Wheatley there, who headed up a double for DC Motorsport of 12th and 13th ahead of Dave Collier. We then did see Daniel Miller 14th for 5M Racing ahead of Michael Rhodes, second of your club drivers, and well done to Michael for that, given how he started, elbowed down the order at the start, but made his way back up into 2nd place and made sure not to lose it for Darkwing Racing. Then we did see Hussein Sarakadesla taking 16th place for GPXs for Onyx, ahead of Mikhail Salkuni, 3rd place finisher in club, 17th overall, and the team will be back at the drawing board, understanding what went wrong, what cost them the win, although to be fair, it was still a solid podium, and they can't look negatively on that. Stuart Rice was only 4 seconds behind there for Blue Sky Esports in 18th, ahead of Eddie Fearbold and Steve Hughes, and behind the Team UKSR driver to continue our way for the overall finishing order. We did see Christopher Petty in 21st, ahead of Simon Hunt, the first of our drivers, who were a lap down the pair, Rob Mackay, Andy Rooney, Ashley Shucksmith, Adam Waters, Jack Giles, Rob Gregg, Gianluca Rospo and Martin Kenyon completed your top 30. And we'll shout out to Martin Kenyon in that Acura. If he hadn't made that mistake coming into a shoot bend, he would have definitely been inside the top 15 at the finish, but it didn't work out today for the Dexterous Motorsports Magenta driver. He's just got to tame in the Acura a little bit more. Yelmer Bergsma, he definitely had some dramatic moments, but he still got to the end for Lewis Homewood Racing, ahead of Ellen Olsen, who did very well to go from 2 laps down to be back only a lap down for Valina TV Racing. Well done to the team for gambling them by only giving her fuel and not tyres, and Olsen demonstrating that she can definitely manage the car. And then we did see Andy Chell ahead of Martin Brandon, with Peter Armstrong completing the top 35. One of the Ghost Quadra Motorsport drivers, Eduardo Andino, ahead of Pete Piver, with Robin Aston and Max Dean completing those a lap down. It was 2 laps down to Danny Weir for Dexterous Motorsport Siam. And then we did see outside the top 40 Michael Lecco, Petr Florian, also James Fraser, and then Josh Holmes in 44th place, 3 laps down. 7 laps down, Paul Mayer there, disqualified from the race, but classified as a finisher as he did complete a sufficient race distance. And also Govind Sureshta completing over 50% of the race distance, and therefore classified for Chaps Motorsport, but a tough day today for him. And then we did see your non-finishers classified: John Train, Matthew Massey, Jordan Butler, Ollie Smith, Garen Corby, and of course a non-start from our Welshman, and that was none other than what was there, Ross Gillett. But in the end, it was a great race all around, and that's what we consider the individual class finishing positions where the points are made and paid. And starting with Premier, we did see finishing overall on the win for none other than the Premier drivers. As we look back up to the top, Menno Blom there for SimRacing Team Lowlands, absolutely pleased as punch for that one he'll be, ahead of Dean Sheasby for MRC Rebels, and MRC Bootleggers, Liam Fraser completing the podium. Then we did see Clyde Vella, Barry Wenman completing that top 5, ahead of Mark de Vries and Connor Pink, with John Lebrook, James Bostock and James Haworth completing the top 10. But what a fight at the end there between Bostock, Haworth, and, don't forget, best 11th, Ross Wheatley there. Dave Collier finishing 12 seconds behind his teammate, with 3 seconds ahead of Daniel Miller. Then we did say Hussein Sarakadesta for GPX SimSport Onyx in 14th, ahead of Eddie Fearbold, with the priority putting up plenty of fights, but unfortunately it didn't work out on the night. Steve Hughes last to finish on the lead lap in 16th place, ahead of Rob Mackay, with Gianluca Rospo, Martin Kenyon, and Yelmer Bergsma completing the top 20. And outside the top 20, it was Ellen Olsen, Ahead of Robin Aston with Petr Florian 2 laps down, 7 laps down disqualified for what was Paul Mayer. And then we did see behind the SimRacing try non-finishes for Govind Suresh, John Treen, Matthew Massey and Jordan Butler. And in the club class, meanwhile, well, the story was all about one driver in the end, Joshua Downing. Much like a Mobility Resort MotoGP, where he led the way after missing out on pole position. Well, here today, he missed out on pole position, but strategic gamble for Rhino Esport put them out of dining for the win in the end, as Joshua Downing prided himself on track position and for Type 2 race, and they simply walked to the win. Michael Rhodes splitting Downing and Salcuni, and in the end taking that second place of Darkwing Racing. And what could it have been if it were not for that incident that cost him a lot of time early on? That'll be a big question, given he was 32 seconds behind. We suspect he would have finished within 10 seconds of the winner, and Mikel Salcuni. To be fair, a great start to the season, a third place, but they will want to know what went wrong, and the Italian driver will be immediately on that. You can count on it. Behind him, it was Stuart Rice for Blue Sky Esports, only 4 seconds off of the top 3 and in so close to a podium to start off the season, but showing his pace once again in that Corvette, and he was the last of our club drivers to finish on the lead lap. Christopher Petty was a lap down, but fended off Simon Hunt and Andy Rooney to the finish, with Rooney bringing home 7th place there for Validity V Racing. Was due to finish in 8th place, but in the end picked up a place as a result of Andy Chell's what was drive-through penalty being awarded. And then we did see Ashley Shucksmith, Adam Waters and Jack Giles complete the top 10. And despite missing his front bumper for the opening 20 minutes, the Euro Titans Endurance Pink driver getting himself back into the top 10 when it mattered most. Rob Gregg took 11th of MLC Rebels ahead of Andy Chell, with Martin Brandon ahead of Peter Armstrong and Eduardo Andino. And the LS Racing 2 driver beating his sister team driver Racing 1 for Pete Piver, and it was Max Dean there the last a lap down. Behind the Gav Max Racing drive, it was 2 laps down to Danny Weir, Michael Lecco and James Fraser, and outside the top 20 of the club class, Josh Holmes was ahead of Ollie Smith, with Holmes being the last classified finisher. And then we did see non-finishes for Ollie Smith and Gavin Corby, and of course that non-start for Ross Gillett. But with that, ladies and gents, that concludes our rundown of the results subject to any Shreds inquiries. And we're not quite done with the broadcast yet, because coming up in approximately 5 minutes' time, we will, of course, be bringing our post-round interviews, our first of the season, where the points are on the line with our drivers. Of course, we can't forget our post-round interviews from what was the pre-season event at Mobility Resort MotoGP, as brought from Split A, of course, but these will be the first Split B interviews. So we're going to step away, and we're back in approximately 5 minutes' time to get those interviews underway here from Watkins Glen. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener. As Sard Pie gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis immediately going the attack into the braking zone. One drive into the grass already. That's Mikey Story, but 3 wide they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M Esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1, and as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3, and Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there at 3 to the inside of 4 then, and Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the 2 of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the 2 Ford, for the Ford and the Corvette, 2 Americans I should say. And
with those 2 Evo drivers in front of them, they're just, they're realistically in a completely different race. They're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wenman. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardiak, up high. He decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. But look at this, for the lead, Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green, and as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him, but look behind Tim Perry under pressure, Miguel Leon immediately as the Enosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back we've got 3, 4 wide there, all in the crush as they come through the opening bay. Look back for the rear of your second place runner of Statman, and Statman right now for the Gazex Racing team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second, and if needed, he may have to act as a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race for the race leader leader here. Although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back. But here comes Lux in the tow. In towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way. And it's too wide on entry. But Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to third. But Callum Lux does clear another one. And now only one car is between him and an opportunity of victory here tonight. Which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being too wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside. Does Edwards think about going up the inside as well? He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think meanwhile Beardsworth will hope they don't get close up in time, as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillison's going to come back at him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth at the end, he gets it wrong. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillison's going to be too wide with him, but too wide they're going to turn 7. Tillison goes to the switchback there. 9 is no way through, and in the end they come down towards turn number 8. Well, there Tillison backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our interviews for Split B this season. And what better way to start off our interviews than by coming to your winner today, overall and in the Premier class. It's SimRacing Team Lowlands' Menno Blom. Menno, good evening to you. What a drive to take the win. You must be absolutely proud of that one.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, it's amazing, of course, the first race of the season and immediately a win. So that's amazing. But also, you don't know what to expect for this race, because the first 90-minute race is somebody going to change tires or not. So I didn't know. At the end, I knew, okay, I can win this race. The beginning, I didn't know yet.
Oh, indeed. Like you say, the big unknown, of course, the endurance race, whole new set of regulations as well with regards to pit stops, fuel before tyres, and therefore not knowing what everyone's going to do. But before we got to the race, let's talk a little bit about the car for the season. We've seen you gone to the BMW, moving away from the Corvette of previous seasons. How are you feeling with this BMW?
Yeah, we're still getting used to it, but every season we just take another car we didn't drive yet. And this time we choose the BMW, and that's okay.
Well, seems to be a good choice. It's going well for you so far. And in terms of qualifying, we saw you put it on pole position in the end in quite a close session, but you were always right towards the top of the times. Seems like Watkins Glen is a happy race circuit for you.
Yeah, it's a nice race. I like Watkins Glen, and I feel great. But I also first practice a lot of higher temperatures, so then when now it was a little bit cooler, so then you got a lot more grip. So it was a little bit easier than suddenly. But it was very great to see already in the practice. I was there close to the top 3. So then I was confident going into the quali, and eventually in the quali also to first place. So that was very nice. Good start of the season.
Oh, indeed. A good start to the season for yourself in qualifying. And then when we went racing, we saw you really maintain control of the lead at the start. You did have the MRC cars constantly chasing you. But something tells me you were very happy to be the leader rather than the one who could sit behind and fuel save.
Yeah, it was difficult in the first stint. Liam and Dean were all the time close to me, so I had to give everything to stay in front. And then after the pit stop, I was suddenly behind Dean. So I thought, hey, what happened? Why I'm now behind Dean? And Liam was suddenly completely gone. So I expected he was changing tires. I didn't change any tires. So and then I didn't understand. Can Dean also drive to the end? I had to stop at least once more. So that was difficult to see. And at the end, Clyde was driving in front. So I thought, oh wait, maybe Clyde have only a one stopper. So it was, yeah, you don't know what to expect the first race.
Oh, 100%. But in the end, one thing we definitely saw as time went on is that you stuck to your guns to the strategy and it all seemed to work out. I mean, from your perspective, did you have to just, in the end, sort of tell yourself, whatever happens, just go with your strategy at this point? Because you can't second guess yourself.
Yeah, I had some. I think at the last stint, I had some problems in the beginning at the stint. I couldn't get at the pace anymore, but at the end, I just kept on driving and driving and get the focus back and keep it on track because it was so slippery at the end. The car is so difficult to get on track, keep it on track.
Well, you definitely kept it together on track, and come the final stint, we did see you re-emerge, and everyone in the end, with all the pit stops done, we did see you re-emerge with quite a comfortable lead. Were you surprised at that point?
Yeah, because after the first pit stop, Dean was in front, and then after the second pit stop, I think before the pit stop I was around 8 to 10 seconds behind him, and then after the pit stop I was 8 to 10 seconds in front of him. So I didn't know what happened over there. Maybe he had some problems or whatever. I don't know. And then later, I think with a few laps to go, I saw Clyde still in front of me around 20 seconds. So that was also, I think, oh, what is happening over there? But when he pitted, then I was okay. Now I'm relieved. Only have to drive to the finish, and that's it.
Oh, indeed, what a big relief. And in the end, as the laps ticked down, you came through for quite a comfortable win in the end. I mean, it's a special win because it's the first win of the season and all new season. So with that in mind, I mean, surely can you make it 2 out of 2 next time at Bathurst?
I don't have a very good track record at Bathurst, so I don't expect too much. But I can be quick over there, but to keep it on track at Bathurst, I have a lot of problems with it.
Oh, fair play. Well, challenging circuit, but we look forward to seeing you rise to the challenge in a week's time. But just before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
I am here with my teammate Mark again this season, so we are going to do our best. And Mark also did a good race. He finished 6th. So we're going to try to get a good team wrestle this year, this season also.
Oh, fantastic. We look forward to the pair of you pushing hard at the Teams Championship as much as you're both chasing glory in the Premier Championship. Menno, we'll leave it there. Congratulations on taking the opening win of the season, Premier. A brilliant drive, a deserved one. Have a great evening, and we'll see you at Bathurst.
Thank you very much, and thank you for commentating.
My pleasure. So hearing there from Menno Blom, ladies and gentlemen, and what a pleasure it was to speak to him, and we're very happy at the performance, no doubt about it. And we'll say in there, and I do love the way he's encapsulated it. I think if he was coming up with taglines for this season, honestly, we should let him do the advertising. You don't know what's going to happen strategy-wise, because this is the first endurance race that we have seen in the Thursday GT3 Championship, and with the new fuel regulations, to see the fact that in the end, you don't know if people are changing tyres, whether they're not changing tyres, you've got to stick to your strategy and figure it out. And that's why he was so surprised at the way it all went. But very happy to be on pole to take the fastest lap of the qualifying session in the first qualifying session of the season. But he knew it was coming given his practice times, which is always an indicator, but over the course of the race had to commit to his strategy, and the way in which he did see the Moonshiners Racing Club cars of Liam Fraser and Dean Cheesby split their strategies around him, where it kept him on his toes. But in the end, he dug in, focused on what he could do, and it paid off with quite a strong win. And while taking that win by the best part of 10 seconds is no small feat, and while he's not expected too much at Bathurst, but to be fair, if he can get his head down, I suspect when he takes on the Mount Panorama circuit, Menno Blom is still going to be the man to beat there, or at least running towards the front. But ladies and gentlemen, let's not dilly-dally. We've got more interviews to come. We'll be right back for our second interview of the day. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we go to the club class, and joining me now in the interview room is none other than Michael Rhodes. Michael, good evening to you, and what a race you've had. Second in qualifying, a bit of a shaky start, recovered to second, and that's where you finished in the end. I mean, you've got to be asking yourself, if it weren't for that, could I have chased down the win?
Yeah, good evening. Could have, maybe, if I didn't make the mistake on lap 1, and I think a few stuck behind a few cars, but all in all, I'll take the second place after after the first lap.
Oh, indeed. Mess. Well, before we get to the first lap, of course, we've got to talk a little bit about car choice and also qualifying. Bringing the Ferrari for this season, I do believe previously you've run the Porsche, unless I'm mistaken. What's inspired you to run the Ferrari?
I wanted something different. I think 2 seasons ago I did the McLaren, last season I did the Porsche, and this season it was between the Porsche, the McLaren and the Ferrari, and I'm a Lewis Hamilton fan and Ferrari fan at heart at the moment, so I thought, you know what, I'm wearing the shirt. I'll drive the car as well.
Oh, fair play to you. I love that. Based it on your enjoyment of Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari, of course. And going into qualifying, we definitely saw a bit of a Ferrari fantastic level qualifying. That 12th overall, second in class, and not too far away from the pole lap set by none other than Mikel Salcuni.
Yeah, I think I could have got closer to him. I don't think I had pole on that, but I think I got a little bit lucky with the toe I had on my lap, but I just could kind of find the lap time in places, but every now and again I'll lose the lap time somewhere else, so it's one of them. I just couldn't get the perfect lap altogether, but I was happy with this P2 and qualifying.
Well, happy qualifying lap. And then what exactly happened at the start of the race? Take us through it from your perspective.
I forgot how Watkins Glen and the bus stop hates some cars when you hit it. I just overdid it. I was more worried about, I think it was Barry on my right hand side. I was just more worried about giving him the space, and then it just caused me to take the second part of the bus stop a little bit too much on the curb, and then obviously once you hit that curb and the bottom out, your car just goes. And luckily I hit the wall head on, so it wasn't too bad. I think it was just a bit of aero damage, so I was able to recover that. So thankfully no meatball, thank God.
Oh, goodness me. Well, a bit of a nasty start to race, but after that, you really went to work closing those places down. I think within the best part of, I want to say, 20 minutes, you'd recovered your way up to second on track, although at that point you were third strategically. I mean, did you change your strategy because of what had happened?
I was originally going to. I was going to actually just go in the pits early and do a shorter fuel stop. But then I saw, I think it was 2 laps, 2 or 3 laps later, I think I did the fastest lap in our group, and I was like, I'll just keep going and I'll see that. And then I just went back to my original strategy, which wasn't too bad.
Oh, indeed. The original strategy seemed to work out for yourself. And you seemed to find yourself a bit clear track each and every time. Although, to be fair, it looked as though you weren't afraid to go for moves, as we do look at some footage of you chasing after Nava and Rob Mackay. Whether it was Premier or Club Drivers, you're having some fun out there.
Oh, God, yeah. I love this track. There's a few corners where I kind of have my favourite kind of moves, like going on the inside on on 9, I think it is, and going up on the boot. It's just it's such a fun track, and yeah, I love trying to trick the drivers, which I could do every now and again, but sometimes it caught me off guard. I made mistakes.
Oh, well, some brilliant batting out there, and we're enjoying yourself out on the circuit. And towards the end, we did see, of course, complete that second pit stop and re-emerge in second place in club. I mean, was it a bit of a pinch me on my dreaming moment to feel that you'd done the recovery, or were you sort of, you know what, yeah, I've done this, I've earned my way back up into the podium?
I definitely think I fully earned the getting back on the podium. Definitely more with that second stint that I did after the first pit stop, and I was just able to get in the clear air and get the lap time in, and I was looking that I was taking a good half a second off some guys in front of me. So I definitely think I earned a P2. Obviously, I was happy with P3, and then obviously I think I can't remember his name now. Got the penalty, unfortunately, on the black flag, and I was like, you know what, I'll take it. Joshua had a fantastic race, well played to him, and yeah, we'll keep going.
Well, speaking of keep going, if it's a podium here today, can we expect you to be back on the podium at Bathurst in a week's time?
That's the plan. That is my plan.
Oh, I like it. I'm liking the confidence there with it as well in terms of the plan. But we'll have to wait and see whether you can deliver the Ferrari master plan and not the meme edition of it, as the Ferrari F1 team is associated with so often. But
I'll try.
But just before I do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast?
Big massive shout out to the team, Dolphin Racing. I've been with them a few years now, and they're brilliant. We've got a new livery which I was able to put in for this season, which is looking beautiful. And obviously a big shout out to mate Gav and Lewis, who are also in Discord. I know Lewis was in Split A. I did have a good race, but yeah, shout out to them.
Oh, fair play. They'll appreciate the shout out, no doubt about it, Michael. But with that, thank you for joining me this evening, and congratulations on a brilliant drive to second place. We'll see you at Bathurst, but until then, you've earned the rest. Have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you very much. Take care.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, for a very happy and spirited Michael Rowe to Darkwing Racing. And talking about the fact that with the choice of the Ferrari, he fancies something different and decides to go with the car that's associated with, of course, his affection for none other than the Ferrari Formula 1 team, and also Lewis Hamilton, and there's nothing wrong with that. And indeed, he didn't show he'd made a wrong choice in the car by delivering a brilliant 12th place overall and second in clubbing qualifying. But in the race, talking about the fact that he had a bit of a moment at the bus stop, a bit of a brush with the high curb, and it sent him to the wall, but thankfully he did not get caught up with anybody else, which was his main concern, and the car in a good enough state to carry on. At that point, definitely got his head down and pushed on, and opted to go back to plan A strategy-wise when he was already planning to switch to plan B, which would have seen him change up the pit stop timings. But it worked out on plan A, and in the end he got his aim game to the town, made his way through the field, and brought back that second place. And, well, good to hear him mention that he felt confident with his pace, feels like he was lapping sometimes, the best part of a second lap quicker than some of his class rivals he made his way on through. There's that confidence, and at Bathurst he's looking for another podium. And for Michael Rhodes, I think this season is only just getting started. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got a few more interviews to come, so we'll be right back because we've got a couple of drivers making their way into the interview room very shortly. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to go back to the Premier class. But this will be a double interview because they both made it onto the podium, and it's only fair that we interview both of them at the same time. We're joined by the Moonshiners Racing Club pair of Dean Sheesby and Liam Fraser. Gentlemen, good evening to you, and a double podium for Moonshiners Racing Club to start off the season. Dean, we'll start with yourself. How was that in the Ferrari? Because you look rapid out there.
It was alright until them tyres virtually melted onto the rims. Luckily, I saved a few X's at the beginning of the race, which I had in my bag at the end of the race to just use them because I couldn't turn. But yeah, other than that, the Ferrari was good until the tyres went.
Well, Ferrari that seemed to handle quite well. And meanwhile, for yourself, Liam, I mean, you went with the loud and absolutely brash Ford Mustang. You looked absolutely rapid on those straights and not too bad in the corners either.
Yeah, really clicked with the Mustang. Drove it back end. Oh no, it wasn't in last season, but I drove it around about that time, back end of season, and I've just not looked at another car since.
Well, focusing on the cars definitely paid off for you. And let's start with yourself a little bit, Liam. In qualifying, second overall and in class, and of course, a very strong lap, just pipping Dean to a small degree. Did you think you could have taken pole though?
Yeah, I was. I don't know actually. It was close, wasn't it? It was thousandths of a second, and then he popped another lap in. I was up by about a tenth and a half on the next lap, and I made a mess of it. So that wouldn't have been enough. So the answer's got to be no, I suppose.
Well, perhaps a no for yourself, but we did see a lot of pace in the race. And Dean, from your side, of course, taking in the end 4th place on the qualifying grid. I mean, still a highly respectable lap. Was there a bit more time out there?
I had it in practice, but I couldn't seem to put a lap together. Story of my life, qualifying comes and I always bottle it. I had a 42.6, I think, in practice. I don't know what did Memo get. Was it 44.7, 44.6? Hey, sorry, 42.6. First time. So,
it was indeed a 42.679.
So yeah, I had that in practice, but yeah, I couldn't replicate it in the actual session. So yeah, no, I think I was where I meant to be on that qualifying.
Well, at the end of the day, qualifying is just a lap. Of course, the race is where it matters. And we saw the two of you at the start running together, staying with Menno Blome until you just gradually started to open up a bit of a gap. But a split in strategies, was that always the plan?
Yes and no. So Liam went and changed his tyres, not knowing that the tyres are on the default setup of after the fuel. I was always going to go for a short splash and try to split this strategy that way, but then obviously with Liam changing the tyres and losing 20 seconds doing it, I decided that I wasn't changing tyres then. So I just went for the full lot with no tyres and a splash in the middle. Liam went for tyres and then the splash at the end, and to be honest, if it wasn't for his axes, he would have got me. So it's a really hard one on which way is the right way to go on it.
And then coming to you, Liam, I mean, from your perspective, discovering only when you came into the pits that now tyres get changed after the fuel goes in, the fact that you made your way back up to third place despite that, did you change your approach then in order to do so? Or did you just say, you know what, hammer down, we're just going for this?
Yeah, it was hammer down all the way. I didn't know. I should have read, to be honest. I probably would have gone for it anyway. Splitting the strategy up. I mean, this season, we've got more drivers in the Moonshiners. So me and Dean are actually on 2 different teams. So we're scoring for 2 different teams. We're still working together out there. I made a mistake coming out the what we call the carousel, the big long right-hander. So I thought, and Dean had better pace towards the start there as well. So we let him go. And it came back to me later on when I found myself with more pace. I did actually close Menno down to 1.5 seconds. But yeah, we did split up a little bit in the middle, but it did come back towards the end. I didn't have I was on 15x at the end. I just didn't have it to fight.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, when you're on 15 instant points, it definitely would be a bit risky to go for it. No, just a small tapper on off track's going to cost you. But, like you say, the 2 of you came back towards the end and we're not too far off our race winner. Although you did have right behind you the 4th place finisher of none other, as I just double check, of what was Clyde Vella there. Did Clyde catch you both out? Because he went really long on that opening stint.
Yeah, to be honest, he was on that first pit stop. He was about 10 seconds back, so he did really well to close up 10 seconds. I think with him going long, he obviously kept a lot of clean air, and we got ourselves in Memo. We were all getting caught up in back markers and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that really paid dividends to Clyde. And yeah, I was watching the Delta, and so was Liam coming into them last several laps.
Yeah, and I come out the pits side by side with him on the last stop, and luckily I had the drive because I was coming out the first corner. He was only coming out the pits, so I was on I think I was on 14x at that point, so it was a hooker up time. But he's a good driver, so.
Well, to be fair, like you say, Liam, small margins and you're just able to stay ahead of him right towards the end. Although I do have to ask, Dean, what was happening at the end for yourself? Because we saw you suddenly really going a bit slow at the end. Were you low on fuel?
No, I had 44% tyre wear remaining. The tyres would give out, so there was a couple of times where I just took the 1x just to keep the speed up a little bit and not drift out too wide. There was T1 and the coming out of the exit to the bus stop. I think there was 2 or 3 occasions where I couldn't get it to go in and just kept my foot planted on it and took the 1x on it.
Oh, fair play. And what you were saying earlier on, just to come back to that, the fact we've got 2 Moonshiners racing teams this season, the Bootleggers and also, of course, Rebels, does that mean there's a little bit of an inter-rivalry between the 2 of you? Is it all teamwork for now, and then as the season goes on, we'll have to wait and see?
There's always rivalry, whether we're in the same team or not. we like to race each other hard where we can, but yeah, we'll play
we had
nice
a plan
where we
coming
can.
in, didn't we?
I think if
We had a plan coming in, and we called it off with a lap and a half to go because of my exes. Otherwise, he'd have had it.
You'd have got taps for that 1x, so.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to say it too early. That's why I called it off when I said it.
No, I think early on in the season we'll play nice. If it comes towards the end of the season and there's a trophy to be won and it's between one of the others, we'll definitely be gloves off and fighting.
Oh, love it. I look forward to seeing those potential gloves come off as the season goes on. But talking about our next round, Bathurst is up next. Coming to yourself first, Liam. What are your thoughts for the mountain?
The mountain is a roller coaster ride. I'll be on the edge of my seat the whole way around. Confident around there, if I'm honest. Will I be there at the end with the clean car? I'll find out next week.
Oh, goodness me. Love that. And how about yourself, Dean?
I absolutely love the mountain. Never drove it in the Ferrari, so it'll be interesting to see what I've done. But in previous SRI seasons, I think I've had 2 P2s there, so it'd be nice to get that P1. But yeah, Memo's pace today doesn't look very optimistic, does it? That he's rapid.
Well, to be fair, you never know until you go there. A very different circuit compared to today, and we look forward to seeing you both out there giving it your all. But just as we wrap up, gents, staying with yourself first, Dean, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to?
Just to the Moonshiner boys, great team. As we say, it's expanding. So, yeah, glad to be racing with the boys again, back in SRI, and seeing what we can do.
And to yourself, Liam?
Yeah, to the Moonshine and the boys and Denny Ploger, and most of all, Jimmy, who won 2 Watkins Glens 6 hours in one day. One in the morning with me and Rob, and one in the afternoon with Dean and Denny. So, the 2-time Watkins Glen winner in one day.
Oh, goodness me. Well, definitely a man who can't get enough of Watkins, just like we can never get enough of seeing the MRC cars out there. Gentlemen, it's been a blast catching up with both of you. Congratulations on a double podium today. Still a bit of work to do to try and beat Menno Blown, but I'm sure we'll see you guys get a little bit closer, if not surpass them at Bathurst. But until then, thank you for your time and have a lovely evening.
You too, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Dean Sheesby and Liam Fraser, our premier stars today for Moonshiners Racing Club and the 2 teams there, Rebels for Sheesby and also for Fraser, there being none other than Bootleggers. And both talking about, of course, their achievements over the course of the day. And also the fact that we do have the 2 teams this season. So therefore, a bit of a rivalry that will form, but always in communication with each other, working together, friends until they break down the alliance. But intriguing there, 2 different perspectives. Liam, as though perhaps he had a bit more pace on tap in that Ford Mustang, although then admitting towards the end of the qualifying he didn't think he could beat Bloem's final qualifying time. Sheesby quite happy of where he was in that Ferrari in his first season in the Ferrari as well. And as we then did go into talking about the race, also hearing the fact these splitting strategies, well, it was of course again the situation whereby it's a bit of an unknown, although Liam Fraser being caught out by not reading the rules and regulations with regards to the fact that the tyres would be changed after the fuel, but the fact that he made up all that time that he technically had lost, which shows you the fact that fresh tyre life really did help out in the endurance race. She's meanwhile going the other way and splitting the strategy down to essentially taking the fuel and not worrying about the tyres, and it brought them all back together right at the end, but they couldn't quite touch Menno Bloem. And mention there, Clyde Vella there to give a shout out to him for the fact he delivered that incredibly long opening stint, and it brought them right back on parity in the end, and such a close race between all 3 of them, but they couldn't quite touch Menno Bloem, and already they're wondering whether they'll be able to touch him when they go to Bathurst. But to be fair, I suspect once they get their heads to the ground, the MRC boys will definitely be going to town and trying to find a way to win. But with that, ladies and gents, we've got one more interview to come, and well, the gentleman in question has been waiting some time, so let's not make him wait any longer. We'll be right back to bring you the final interview of today. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure now to come to our 4th and final interview, or our 5th interview, we should say. But it's joining me in the interview room as we head back to club. It's none other than Andy Chell. Andy, good evening to you. It's great to see you back out there once again. And yourself and Simon Hunt today, both delivering an exciting race, although in the end, not quite the result you're looking for, but almost the top 5 at one point.
Yeah, it was bit of a mixed race, unfortunately. A couple of incidents that left the car a bit damaged. But overall, the car had pace. Both me and Simon felt the pace in the car. So, yeah, I think all things being fair, it's a decent overall night, really. We're back in the Aston. We're both very comfortable in that car. So the indicators are quite good, but yeah, unfortunately, a couple of incidents that, you know, if they hadn't happened, what could have been, because that unfortunately meant running a little wide towards the end with the tyres going off meant that I ended up having to do a drive-through. But it's one of them, unfortunately. But yeah, what could have been, but again, still promising.
Oh, indeed, quite a bit of promise out there. And talking about some promise shown early, of course. Well, in fact, let's come back to the car firstly. Back to the Aston Martin after the season, the Corvette, which was not your choice of car necessarily, but you gave it a go. Yeah. Back to much more familiar territory.
Very much so, yeah. It's the car that the team's been racing all season from January. So
it's our go-to car really, and it was, yeah. Last season was very much a let's have a bit of fun. Let's see what we can get. We gave a choice out to the team. The team said just spin a wheel and see what happens, which is why I ended up in the Corvette. Not a car I know very well at all. But yeah, this season we've got all three of the drivers that are in. So you've got me and Simon in split B. You've got Dominic in split A. We're all running the Aston Martin. Like I say, we know that car inside and out. It's one that isn't always the fastest car, but because we know it well, we can make it fast. So yeah, that's the plan this season, is use what we know, work together for me and Simon, and hopefully get some good points on the board, and hopefully have Quatermass back up at the top of the team's championship, which is kind of been missing us since season 7, really, to be honest with you. So we're trying to get back up there.
Well, great aspiration to have, and I do like the fact, like you say, all focusing on the car that you're all comfortable with. And, well, to be fair, you look quite comfortable in qualifying today. 8th in class, 27th overall, but the times, if you exclude the outliers at the front, say Joshua Downing and, of course, the pole sitter of none other than Mikhail Salkuni, you weren't far from the top 5.
Yeah, it's very, very close qualifying. Both me and Simon were able to get a little bit quicker in practice, but obviously the track conditions and things like that when you're practicing on other days can be different, so it's not always a good true indication. But we were both a little quicker in practice, but both of us were very happy with the qualifying performance of the car. I ran a slightly different setup in qualifying. I went a little bit safer, so there's a couple of tenths on the board there, but I was hoping more for the consistency of it, just in case, just while I got my eye back in, because I haven't had much time today to get settled. I literally finished work and jumped straight into the sim, so it was just get that stability, just see how the car is, and then for the race go to the race setup that we got. So there's probably 4 or 5 tenths left off, because the wing, it runs higher wing, so it's more draggy, which slows it down around here, but does make it a little more stable for, you know, if you're not 100% dialed into the track on the day. So for me, maybe a little bit more, maybe a bit closer up with Simon, maybe been around that top 5 where Simon was, but I'm still happy with 8. It's still top 10 in a very competitive field, so can't take it away from anyone who's around us. You know, at the end of the day, everybody's really talented, even though we're in what people would potentially deem the slowest class. There's still a lot of potential and a lot of talented drivers. So yeah, I'll happily take that. And yeah, again, good sign, like you say.
Oh, indeed. Like you mentioned, the fact, definitely a lap to build upon. And in the race, we did see you make some steady progress. Although it was going to be a race that came as much down to pace on circuit as it did strategy. Had you and the team figured out how you wanted to play it? Because as we spoke to several other interviews earlier on, all saying the same thing, which is it's the great unknown. It's the first endurance race under a brand new set of pit stop regulations.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, we decided we weren't going to take tyres on the first stop. The thing that we ifed and hawed about was whether we short fueled that stop or not, and we weren't 100% confident in our calculations of how much fuel for what would be the little stint, let's say, that would be. We were coming out around about 30 to 31 litres, and we weren't fully confident with it, so we elected to still not do the tyres, but do a full fuel stint for the second pit stop. In hindsight, maybe we should have trusted ourselves, because the last stint was 30 litres of fuel. But it's one of them, like you say, it's a great unknown. We haven't done 90-minute races in Thursday GT3 for, I don't think we ever have, actually. The only ones I've really done 90-minute races were in the GTE season, when I did that back when that first came around. So yeah, it's one of them where it's new to everybody, so there's going to be a couple of ways of doing it. I don't think we got the most out of it. I think we would have been better if we'd have done a short fuel stop in the middle and then had new tyres with the full fuel tank at the end. But hindsight's 2020, like I say. We still ended up working really well together on the track. I don't know if it was seen, but we were close when me and Simon had done a final stops. We came out together. We were working through the traffic together, and then I was holding him up a little, so I let him through, and he went off to go and catch up. So, yeah, I think overall, bit of an unknown. Probably would, in hindsight, do things a little different next time round, but I still can't take away from everything. We did really well, to be honest with you. It was a good team effort.
Oh, 100%. And we did get to catch both you and Simon exiting the pit lane or emerging together on the strategy going into the final stint. And like you say, a really solid day today. Of course, it didn't quite end up being the result you wanted with that late drive-through penalty, but sometimes that's the way it goes. I mean, was it one of those moments whereby you just thought to yourself, oh, for goodness sake, I've made that one tiny mistake. I've made just a few too many.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'd got 8 from the contacts that I'd had with I think it was Martin Kenyon and Jimmy Frazier. There was concertina effects, and I ended up being in the middle of the sandwich. And then me and Michael had to come in together, which, I mean, luckily for me, happened around the opening of my second pit window, so it wasn't as disastrous as it could have been, but it was still half a lap with a car at 90-degree steering angle to go straight, so it wasn't 100% ideal. I mean, there was nothing in it. Both incidents aren't anything that needs to go to the stewards. They were both 50-50. You know, I'm taking my line, Michael's trying to take his line, and it's just we ended up in the middle together. So we spoke about it in the cool down room. There was nothing in it. Well, it was just he didn't expect me to take as early an apex into the heel of the boot as I do, and he apologised. And I was like, it's fine. It is what it is. And same with Jimmy. He apologised. He spooked himself into one of the corners, and it just concertinaed, like I say. So without that, probably wouldn't have. Without them 8, probably wouldn't have been anywhere close. But it's one of them tracks. This track where the final corner, well, the second to final corner, and the first corner away, you get your off tracks because it's so tempting to try and carry more speed, and it just drags you out wide. So it's one of them where it happens. Yeah, it was frustrating, 100%. I think I sped through the pit lane as well because I was annoyed with it because it was the last lap of the race that it happened, and I was just like, this couldn't be happening any worse now. Because I've got Andy Rooney 7 seconds behind me, and I think I lost Andy's position and someone else as well. But again, I mean, that's something that's nice. It's nice to see some familiar faces I haven't seen for a long time. So, yeah, all in all, frustrating, but like I say, it is what it is. It happens.
Oh, indeed. That's the way it goes sometimes. But still, you got it to the end, got some points on the board, and now we look ahead, of course, to round number 2. Bathurst is next. How are you feeling for the challenge of the mountain?
I like it. I do like Bathurst. It's a very fast technical track. Again, I've always said this. I prefer fast tracks. I always have. The unknown there is going to be the weather, especially with the starting at sunset, because if it rains, it's going to be very difficult for people because it's going to be dark, so you're not going to be able to see where the puddles are going to be, or you're not going to see it as easily as you would in the day. So, yeah, that's going to be the unknown, is how that's going to shape out for us. But, yeah, I think the car's going to be good around there. We've ran the 12-hour there, start of the year, sorry. In the Aston, we had a very strong showing. So confident in that regard, and like I say, I have always gone well there. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have a good showing by both me and Si.
Well, we definitely look forward to seeing yourself and Simon back out there once again at Bathurst, giving it your all. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a mention to on the broadcast this evening?
As always, to yourself for the amazing stream that you put on, to all of the SRI team. You know, they do a massive and very big job organising all this, and it is greatly appreciated because it is a very, very engaging, very fun community to come and race with. Everyone at Quatermass, obviously you've got me, Simon, and Dom that are front and centre for us this season, but there is a lot of people in the background that do a lot of things. My darling wife, who's just put up with me running in from work and coming upstairs and not really seeing me, to be honest. And everyone who's watching, thank you so much for coming and watching, because if you didn't, we wouldn't get to put these on.
Well, Andy, we've got to give a big thank you to you for joining me in the interview room this evening. It's been a blast to get to catch up with you and hear the perspective, not just yourself, but also from Quatermass Motorsport as a whole. A solid start to the season, not the way you necessarily wanted it to end this round, but to be fair, plenty of ground to move upon, and we look forward to seeing yourself, Simon, and the team back out there at Bathurst. But until then, well done once again, and have a lovely rest of your evening.
And you, matey, thank you very much.
And hearing that, ladies and gentlemen, from Andy Chell from Quatermass Motorsport, and reflecting on what has been a day of mixed outcomes. So the fact, in the end, the team looking relatively strong when it came to qualifying and making some steady pace in the race. Of course, there was the incident between Andy and Michael Rhodes midway through the race, and you sound about the fact that he and Michael have cleared the air with that one, and what was a difference of apex turning point there, and a bit of a misunderstanding, but that's what we do encourage here, of course, at SimRacing International, as far as tries to communicate with each other first and foremost when incidents do happen, rather than immediately jump into tickets and pointing fingers, because at the end of the day, sometimes a small misunderstanding, a small conversation afterwards can go a long way. But also what went a long way today for both Andy Chell and Simon Hunt was a good bit of teamwork, and we saw them both back out there together going on to their final stint. But sadly for Andy, with the instant points he'd accrued, well, just one small mistake and then pushed him over the drive-through limit and relegated him to a finish outside the top 12. But they'll be back at Bathurst and looking to come on even stronger, and we'll mention the fact they want to get Quatermass Motorsport right back towards the front of the Teams Championship after several seasons away, dating all the way back to season 7 when they were right towards the top. And well, we look forward to seeing whether Andy and the team can do so, and there are a lot of rounds to go. So indeed, this is just the start of what is a long 10-week journey. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews, and let's give you a quick recap of who exactly we've spoken to. And as we can see, we've had a conversation with a good 5 drivers today for our first round of the season. We started, of course, with our premier winner and overall winner of none other than SimRacing Team Lowlands' Menno Blome in the 152. We then came to Michael Rhodes, run-up today in the club class at Darkwing Racing, having enjoyed a race there and a good recovery drive after a difficult start. Then we went back to the premier class and had a double bill of Moonshiners Racing Club with Dean Sheasby and Liam Fraser together, reflecting on what's been a great double podium for the team, and the fact that in the end it was a difference on strategy, but no answer to Menno Blome's pace. And then we came back to club for our final interview, and we've just spoken to Andy Chell in the 205 for Quatermass Motorsport, reflecting on the mixed fortunes of today, but also knowing there's plenty of positives on which to build the season. A big thank you to all 5 of our drivers for joining me in the interview room. We're very grateful for their time, and we look forward to plenty more interviews of our drivers as the season goes on. But with that, it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you're sat there right now having enjoyed today's show and probably thinking to yourself, you know what, I'd absolutely love to be out on the grid there and enjoying the racing in amongst all the other drivers, or you just want to know a little bit more about SimRacing International or somewhere in between on the spectrum, well, of course, the best thing to do is join our official Discord. Invite link available on screen, as seen at the bottom there. Indeed, you won't find a more welcoming and friendly community when it comes to SimRacing International, and well, so we're based in the United Kingdom. We are open to anybody from around the globe, whether you're based in the United States, America, on the wider European continent, in Africa, or Turkey, in Asia, or even Oceania. There's a place for you here on the grid at SRI. And if you want to join the grid, well, currently, of course, we have the following series ongoing, including our GT3 Championship on Thursday evenings every week, our Premier Series with the A and B split, and you'll be tuning into B split today for the 13th season. We also do have on Sundays the UK SimRacing Sunday Showdown, about to enter into its 19th season officially this coming Sunday, and that's every week with the broadcast brought to you as if they were live the day after on Monday evenings. We also do have, for those who like a blast from the past, our GT Championship Season 3, which is due to get underway in just under a month's time, and every 2 weeks we're going endurance racing in the machines that were part of the World Endurance Championship and Equivalent Series from 1999 through to 2023. But if you're looking for something brand new, if you're looking to really step up your game, well, of course, we do have the Motorsport UK Esports Approved Championship of none other than Transatlantic Trophy, our first season of which dedicated to the McLaren and its GT3 and GT4 racing machines racing every 2 weeks on Wednesday evenings, and it's definitely something to get your teeth into with some huge prizes available in that championship series. But if you're looking for something a little bit more straightforward, a little bit calmer, perhaps you're looking to dip your toes into sim racing in a league format for the first time, we do our free races per week in our practice league, which runs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Saturdays. So there's never been a better time to get on the grid here at SimRacing International. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include CarMate, Mon Technology, the GP2 Group, and we'd also like to give a big shout out to Motorsport UK Esports' division for, of course, recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. But speaking of beyond, well, now we move beyond Watkins Glen, and next time out, ladies and gentlemen, on Thursday, the 9th of July, we make our way down under to Australia, and it will be in New South Wales. We do head to Mount Panorama, but you'll know and love it, and normally refer to it as Bathurst. And there it's going to be a 1 hour race. There'll be mixed conditions expected, and who exactly will find themselves the king of the hill in our Premier and Club classes in what could be some very slippery conditions. Well, here we've seen today at Watkins Glen in Split B that in the Premier class at least, Menno Bloom seems to have an answer on pace if he doesn't quite have the answer on strategy, although he seems to have a complete package in his BMW M4 Evo for Sim Racing Team Lowlands. But the Moonshiners Racing Club team are hot at his heels, and Clyde Vella definitely a bit of a strategic genius to make his way into that 4th place. As a club, well, whilst it was Mikhail Salkuni who led the way in qualifying, it was Josh O'Dowd who put all the pieces together in the race and also shone high on pace. But do not forget the fact we saw Michael Rhodes put on a terrific show, and he's very eager to make his way back onto the podium, if not pursue victory. In the club class right now has some shining stars, but there's plenty further down the field who would love their opportunity in the spotlight. How will it all continue at Bathurst? We'll come tune in a week's time live from circuit side to find out. But until then, we've been SimRacing International. I've been your host and commentator for Split B, Paul Walsh, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.